Hey, what's good, people? It's episode 93. Got this dude over here, Riley Salmon, and the episode starts right now. Episode 93, Jason DeBillius, Option Podcast. Ask and you shall receive, because for me, I've got to give the people what they want. Dun, 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 dun. Riley Salmon, what's up?
What's up, man? I like that little Jalen Rose right there, huh?
Yes.
That's good stuff right there.
Ooh,
man, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Ooh, I feel like they stole my song.
They could have. I'm sure it wasn't the first time it's been used.
No, right? Yeah, so they can't say I stole theirs, right?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
So check it out. Before we got on the podcast, we were talking about Coach Hunt and just about Coach Hunt and like, that's crazy how it all comes down to Pepperdine, right? They're more like win or learn. But we had a conversation before the podcast started about dealing with losing. I'm gonna give you the floor, and you can take it anywhere you want. And let's start with that. It's just, well, I'll say a little more. It's basically you spend 10 and a half months out of the year. Let's say it's a college season. Let's say it's a national team, off season, this and that. That comes to these moments, and when you lose, I guess how do you compartmentalize it? How do you just say boom, move on, life goes on?
Yeah, man, I think that's one of the great things that I was telling you offline, that the best ones do that. They're able to do it. Then what I learned, though, is it hurts them just as much as it hurts me. But, this year when we lost, we had we had trained for 2 years for the tournament that we went to, NAI Nationals, and we were playing really good volleyball. And we ran into a Park College team that was just a little bit better than us on that day. They had 5 or 6 seniors. We're a really young team. We didn't have any seniors. And they played a little bit more experience, right? And then after that match was over, I did not respond well. I was really upset. I was in my feelings. And, I called David Hunt, was one of the guys I reached out to first. And, he said, hey, this is how this business goes. It hurts. He goes, it hurts, but you need to figure out how to move on and learn from it. And I think when he said that, that was the most important word for me that it has been in my entire career, player, coaching, mentor, dad, is learn. Am I able to learn from today and be a little bit better tomorrow? If I can do that, then it's worth it, right? But if I can't and I sit in my feelings and one of my old coaches, Doug Bill, said you had 24 hours to feel sorry for yourself. And then after that, it's onward, and of course, as a player, it's a little bit easier because you can get in the gym and start working out right after. As a coach, when we lose, it's on me. I don't care what anybody says. It is on the coach. The players have to play and execute, but you have to have a plan B, C, D. And just, for instance, I didn't have that, being a young coach, I had a plan B and a C. Neither one of those were working, and I didn't have D and E.
Let me tell you something. Like, you've made it when you're on Volley Talk.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You can win a gold medal. You could do all of this, right? And all of a sudden, everybody cares when you're lit up by those trolls on Volley Talk. It
is a trip too, man. You're just like, what the hell? But everybody's got an opinion, and I really learn from it. I don't follow tons of social media people, but the guys that I follow are leaders, and I listen to stuff that they talk about. David Goggins, I'm sure you know who he is one of the guys that I follow.
Man, I love
Jocko, the guy that I follow.
Willink, right? Jocko Willink?
Yeah. I mean, these guys are the guys that I just started following in the last 6 or 7 months, and I've kind of really actually changed my entire, not life, but mornings. I get up early and I'm out in the gym and I'm doing stuff that those guys are, but I can't obviously do what they do, but the mindset is there, right?
Did you find Jocko on the podcast, the Joe Rogan podcast?
Yeah,
that's where I found him.
I saw him on that one. I've seen him on the Tim Ferriss show. These guys, just like yourself. First of all, I totally forgot. Thank you for your service. I totally forgot. I meant to say that the first thing when we came on. And any military personnel that are listening, thank you for your service. You guys make it possible to do what we do. Yeah. And I had a really cool kind of take this. This is going off topic, but I had a really cool adventure. I want to say it was about 8 years ago. I got to go to Vilseck, I believe is how you say that. Vilseck in Germany.
Yep.
And massive base there. And I did a camp for about 100 kids. and I was there, but as I was getting pulled in and I was about to do my first day of camp, the director said, "Hey, by the way, 60 of these kids' parents left yesterday to go to Afghanistan."
Jeez.
And I was like, "Oh, dude," and like it hit me hard, you know. And I came in and I didn't know what to say, so we pulled them all in, and all we did was talk about life experience for the first 2 hours of camp. Okay. And how they loved their parents, you know, and what they were doing for our country was fantastic. And, you know, we really embraced that. And Colonel actually coined me. You know, he was there to hear some of this speak. So, you know, it really was a cool camp. It was more about kind of getting those guys through the first week with their parents gone. And obviously, I'm sure some of them didn't come back. But I've been really into the past couple of, I guess, the last 6 months, listening to a lot of stuff. What did I listen to? I listened to Chosen. Also, War, I believe, is one of the with Sebastian Younger. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I'm a really big fan of military personnel, so I wanted to say thank you for your service.
Oh, and by the way, none of this is off topic. This is the option podcast. We get to basically say whatever we want. I mean, if we were two people going through the motions and this and that, there's other podcasts where people could do that, you know. But for us, we keep it real. Well, my entire service was in Darmstadt, Frankfurt, Germany, and Darmstadt, Germany. I played for a military community team, and that's how I got noticed, you know, by a German club team. It's how I wound up playing there. And you're right, like these kids, it's just amazing how these kids just, I don't know if they're oblivious to it until someone's gone, but there's no one that rolls with the punches that are just like, all right, we're moving. We're going to Leavenworth. All right, cool. You know, we've been reassigned, and it's like, man, how do you just, if you could just pack up and go like that, you're just always on the move. I don't even know if you even have time to compartmentalize what, that your dad's out there and he might get shot.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's pretty wild, man. I used to, you know, there's a lot of terminology out there when you talk about volleyball or sports and go to battle and things like that. And I won't say things like that because I think it has nothing that is even close to the ramifications of what battle or war does. And I've obviously never been there, but I've spent a lot of time with James and a lot of other guys that I know that have been in service. A really good friend of mine was in Iraq and Afghanistan, and, you know, he won't even talk about it, you know, and it's real. And I think that it goes, and again, I'm not anti anything, but I love our military personnel.
Hell yeah.
And I think that what you guys do is freaking unbelievable.
Well, I mean, look, let me interrupt you for a second. As someone who served himself, and my father before me and my father before me and my kid's sister, the first female, did 2 tours in Afghanistan. All right.
Oh, killer. That's awesome.
We don't get to choose where we go. So your ability to honor the soldiers and not necessarily someone in the back room fighting the war with a paper and a pen, or, you know, or maybe someone who's invested in Halliburton, or someone, you know, who's doing like this secret war or whatever. So I always say the same thing you do. I don't think there's actually an anti-military. I think there's just an like an establishment, you know, like,
sure.
Like, I don't know. I'm not going to get into weapons of mass destruction. I'm not going to get into the Gulf of Tonkin, you know, which triggered the Vietnam War and all, or whatever false flag operation. So, but some people, it's very much, look, it's in our human psyche to be mad at the prom queen. The girl that was elected prom queen instead of the people that voted her in. It's really, it is in our human psyche to boo the guy who won an MMA match by decision when it wasn't him that made the decision. It was the judges that made the decision. Yeah. And these assholes are they can't help it, I guess. It's crazy that it's in our human psyche to infer to the negative and just see what's in front of us and go after. So, and I think you'll agree with me on that. So, I mean, any decent human being would agree with you and me on that one.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I hope so anyway, or else we're doing some wrong things out here.
We're in trouble as not a nation. No, as a human population, never mind as Americans. As a human population, we're in trouble, dude. But getting back to what you were saying about winning and losing, I had a really good quote from Chael Sonnen, MMA fighter. He was coaching Uriah Hall in like The Ultimate Fighter, and Uriah Hall, like you said, has these moments where you work so hard and sometimes your enthusiasm works against you, and the moment you can't dumb it down. It's just so overwhelming. So he said something very important you'll agree with. They say that losing's not an option. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Losing is an option. Losing is the most readily available option all the time. So we as coaches, we always want to say next play, hey, let's go, let's move on. Or we can like negative talk creep up into our head like, oh, you should have got that, where they're looking back. And that's, as volleyball players, that's how somebody's mentality can cost them 3 points because of 1 point, albeit a controversial call and this and that. So for us as coaches, and I'm just saying this, and you follow through after this, if you're one of those players that has like one of these hang-ups when the moment seems big or whatever, one, the other team's feeling the same thing, and two, it's not an unnatural feeling. It's a natural fucking feeling. So I wanted to get that in because it was something that we bounced back, we bounced away, but I wanted to bounce back on that before we moved on to whatever.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head though. I think in what people overlook, it is a natural feeling. You know, so I'll give you a little bit of pretty cool stuff. We were about to play in 2008 against Brazil in the gold medal match, right? I get goosebumps thinking about it, talking about it. I can still see us coming into the venue right next to Brazil. We're walking in. We're on this side, on the right. Brazil's on the left. You know, we're walking in. We're about to hit warm-up lines. We're about to get going. And I just look at all of our guys, and you can see some apprehension. You can see a little bit of jitteriness, and I'm sure as hell fired up. And I just looked at them, and I said, hey, man, it's okay. Let's hug it out. We hug it out on finals. So we just gave everybody a big hug, looked at each other and said, hey, someone's going to win and someone's going to lose. That's it. Mm-hmm. Don't over magnify the situation. But what's that?
No, who on the team looked the coldest? Like
as far Stanley. As Stanley by far. Not even. It was like he was going for a walk in the park, man. I mean, I was pretty jacked. Lloyd was everybody was jacked. Stanley was jacked. Don't get me wrong. I mean, once he started serving, so he always had this when he was really engaged and at his best, he would be landing about 12 to 15 feet into the court on his jump serve and just this massive noise. You know, it's hard to explain it because it only happened, maybe once a year. But he would throw his serve up and just it's like Tiger Woods hitting a golf ball, completely different sound, landing on the ground, just sounds like a truck coming straight for you, So, like you said, losing is an option, man.
It's always quit, there when you need it. It's always ready for you.
Yeah, and one of the things I like to say is don't quit before the miracle happens. There's some things that are going to go on. Losing's right there. I mean, it's definitely an option. As you're saying, next ball, let's side out. But to get to that level and to that mentality, especially if you've been playing pro or you're over in Europe and you're doing some things that are different, you get paid to win over there. Okay, if you're not winning, they're going to try to find someone who else can come in and take that spot for you, or they're going to, there's going to be an upgrade somewhere. Someone's going to get cut. But losing is definitely an option. Yeah. It's definitely an option.
So, the Olympics, I'd like to say something. You guys are 5-0 in pool. Some would say the murderer's row are in the other pool, right?
For sure.
Serbia, Montenegro, Russia, and Brazil. I think we're all in the same pool.
And Poland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, nice of you guys. Nice of you guys that have the host, right? China as a tune-up match before you go to the playoffs.
Absolutely.
So, I have one name for every win that you have. The quarters, the semis, and the finals.
I've already heard this, so I know the names that you have.
Well, the easiest one's the finals, because Clay Stanley decided, look, I might get blocked, but I'm gonna hurt some people. That is the life of a gangster. That is the life of an opposite, right? And I've accepted this role. For you, this is repetitive, but for the audience who's listening to this for the first time, let's take us through it.
I forget we're on a podcast. I think we're just talking.
Well, this isn't live. Usually I do live as a teaser.
Okay.
But my whole computer shut off. It got pissed at me going live and doing this at the same time. So if we ever go live again, you got to be in studio next time you're in California, okay? Or you're in.
Absolutely.
Semifinals. Everyone listening. David Lee came up with a kill, came up with a block. Russia got away with a chuck. The USA said forget about it. David Lee came up with a kill, blocked their oppo. Serbia, Montenegro. You had some ridiculous power drinks that kept you in game 4, but I have some highlights where you're up 12-10, and I want to take you to one. Let's do this. Oh, geez, you lost your mind. Hold on, let's go back.
Yeah, this ball right here is the biggest swing of my career that's about to happen.
Because they didn't leave you a whole bunch of lines. Serbia likes, if they're set up, oh, my God, that's awesome. Now, Riley, if they're set up on the 3 block, they're not gonna like give you anything. Some people away from the net will give up line, away from the net. They're just trying to take away everything. These guys are savages, dude. And here is match point.
Second biggest swing of my life.
Yeah, dude, that was great. Let's do match point. Actually, let's get some sound.
Send yourself to the semifinal. But look who's serving.
I like how it's almost like the cameraman knew it was gonna be you. Yeah, did you see the? You just saw the shot. So little mini go ball, and that was it. And look at here's you. The shit is bananas. Bananas.
Yeah.
So, how much do you agree, or is there any player that you wanted to add on that run on any of those 3 matches? Let's with Serbia, Montenegro to the best. Look, it was a while ago. I mean, for me, 2008 feels like yesterday, but that was a minute ago. So, let's start quarters.
Man, I'll go Lloyd Ball on all of them.
Yeah.
You know, I know that's. I think that he did some incredible things, and to keep us in system all the time. I mean, I think we were the best passing team in the Olympics. I think whenever we look back on it, that's what we came up with. I think I was actually the best passer in the Olympics for an outside hitter.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of things that I did really well, obviously, but there's things where you put the ball over the net and he's grabbing it. What's usually an overpass, it turns into a 4-point pass.
Yep.
You're passing the ball 12 feet off the net. He's still keeping you perfectly in system. There's just some things where he could do that I've never seen another setter do just so consistently. I played with Ricardinho and Treviso one year, and he was similar to Lloyd, but still not as good. Literally Lloyd would say, hey, get on your route. Don't slow down. Mm-hmm. And it was just constantly like that. I think a really interesting point that people might not know is the match point against Russia. Mikhailov had been crushing over me all match. And I was 100% sure we called a timeout to set up a blocking scheme. And I said, hey, I'm closing the line all the way. And David's like, look, he's going to go sharp angle. I said, no, he's not, Dave. And we're literally arguing back and forth, and sure enough, I go out, close the line. David stops short. Mikhailov hits it hard angle, and David gets it with his right hand, and it's straight down. And he looks at me and he goes, I told you, and then we're on to the gold medal match, so it's, there's so much that went into those matches. And we had so many great volleyball guys on the team. That was the most special part is you got 12 guys all bought in, and I've been on very few teams that are like that. In Europe, it was never like that. The national team was pretty much like that all the time, but that group had been together for a really long time. Yeah. Most of us from 2001 all the way up until 2008, and then some of the guys we played through 12, and then a couple of guys even through 16. So a good group of volleyball guys. Yeah. Lloyd was probably. I think that he's just overlooked because people expected him to be great. You know what I mean? But he was by far the best player as far as just being consistently keeping us in the system, which obviously made us better than everyone else.
And I'm glad he came back. Dude, it would have been a shame for that guy to play 3 Olympics and not leave at the podium. So his decision to come back, I thought was really, really cool, man. And I thought he had some significant improvement on his blocking techniques, because sometimes when you're a big dude like that, you're just like, all right, I'm tall, I'm gonna block you. But then you play against these cats that are your size, where even the middles are the middles are trying to pass like you. You gotta, your techniques has to be sound. Sometimes you gotta know when to press, and when not to overpress. This, get your armpit shaven, this and that. The thing I liked about your team was you had 3 things I think every championship team should have. One, a tandem of outside hitters where one guy knew it was his role to be more explosive, and it was the other guy's role is to be the best passer on the court. The latter was you. Of course, if they needed you, you were there, as I just showed on the video. Sometimes it's cool to be the finisher, right, when they're paying attention to everybody else. The second thing is a good coaching staff that understands that big waves crash. So they want you to be high, but not too high. You were really good at whooping it up, but I thought you provided a good balance with Stanley being the cold guy and this and that. So you guys complemented each other. The third thing was being able to just do things out of tradition. Like you guys were at row 1. That's what people on the domestic indoor volleyball, row 1 is when the server is, or the setter is at the server spot, right? I played overseas. I didn't even know what the hell rows were. But when you guys were at row 1 against Serbia, Montenegro, Stanley decided for 2 rotations was blocking out there, and you were hitting right side. you
Right.
know, and then a Hoff came in as a middle, you know, to get a couple of touch blocks, this and that. So I really liked, like, you look at every gold medal team, like the U.S. was, like Karch and Stork switched, right? Karch was a setter at UCLA, so, you know, Staheda was killing him, so he decided to have Karch block him instead of Stork, and Stork actually hit left side on trans. So to do these things out of tradition instead of just staying stubborn about how one way works, all of those things are the ingredients of gold medals, you know, not to mention 2-point victories.
Man, absolutely. That's well put. And there's an interesting thing that Loy used to love to block on the left. He was a much better blocker going to his left, which, you know, is interesting. It's just he was better that way. He also did another thing that was really interesting. When he came back, he didn't want to be captain. You know, he'd been captain for a couple of Olympics, and he said, look, I just want to play ball. And he really did. He put himself aside and put his teammates in front of everybody, which it's a hard thing to do, man. We always talk about being unselfish and being a great teammate. But it's real hard to do at that level. You know, people, you want to be noticed. Like you said, you want to be noticed as the closer. You want to be noticed as this guy. You want to get paid. But he did a great job, you know, of putting himself aside, letting Hoff and myself be captains. And, you know, Hoff was really great. You know, he's been my best friend, my son's godfather. And he was a little bit nicked up last couple of years, but he was a coach from the sideline. You know, him and I would watch video. We knew all the rows. We knew the tendencies. And obviously got to go out and execute, but having another coach on the side that's a player that can talk to you like a player was really instrumental in that Olympic Games as well.
Yeah, you were talking about training some people out in California. Remind me, were they juniors or professionals?
No, they're professionals. David Lee and Ty Loomis, they play on the beach, the AVP, and you know, obviously played with David for whatever it was, 6-7 years indoor, and then he's still playing. That's what he does. He's still trying to play in the AVP and make a little living out there. So I went out there, hit some balls at him, then actually got in and played this morning, which was awful. It was the first time I'd played in the sand in 7 months, so it was slow motion.
You're Tate Monstering on offense.
Yeah, I could serve in. That was my claim to fame. I'm like, hey, it's in. So but it was really fun to see them and move around. They actually had a group of 16 guys out there this morning, like Corona Del Mar training, and it's fun to see the youth, and the passion. I really hope the AVP can put together a tour in the next year or two that can compensate some of these guys, you know, because it's hard. Even if to really make a living on that tour, you got to be in the top 5 every single weekend, and then you still might have to get another job.
The AVP Next tournaments have gotten better. I just got back from New Orleans. I was doing their center court.
Wow, awesome.
For TSV TV, the cable
cool.
channel.
Yeah, right on.
And for CST. So I was doing the cable channel and the live stream. The AVP brought in the refs, you know, they brought in like the MC, but like the Coconut Beach people were adamant about having me. Like Sean Ledig was instrumental, and
that's awesome.
Look, I paid my dues. I'm not here to talk about me, but I'll just say, hey, I paid my dues. You know what I'm saying? A little bit of an obstacle at a time, and here I am. So, but that was a $20,000 purse, and that for a Next. They had the Raptors. They had like the media thing, like above the whatever. They had a restaurant on the beach. It was a merchandising shops. It was like a first class setup for a Next. And now Atlantic City, before the 3-stop tour, Atlantic City, that's $50K. So I think as they continue to do a better job on these Next, and I think a lot of these guys who are in the middle of the bottom of the main draw, like Ty Loomis, you know, whatever, they continue to go to those tournaments. They continue to build the brand of the Next. And then when the stops come, just look out as far as media frenzy and fan attention and revenue and all that stuff. Whatever, I don't know what the hell they're doing, but it looks good and I like it. I mean, Amazon had to be the biggest gangster move, right?
Yeah,
Amazon
I agree
Prime
with you.
had to be the biggest
What'd
gangster
you think of Evan Corey?
Evan Corey, he's the future.
Is he? I haven't seen him in God, it's probably been 3 years since I've seen him play on the beach, and I follow him on Instagram and stuff, and he's killing it. So I'm excited to see how he's playing.
I will say this about him: Hermosa Beach, 2019. I picked up Earl Schultz, the guy with the afro, Big Pearl.
Yeah,
and Jake Arudia, this guy they call Jersey Jake. They picked me up, and we got into the draw. I coached them into the draw. That was my first qualifier team. No, second.
Oh, cool.
Well, second, Rafa Rodriguez and Kevin McCulloch in 2016. So I've always been there. I've just been behind the scenes. I'm not out there, you know, picking up a team that's already good. But we played Evan Corey to get in as a play-in. Great situation. Buttinger and Friend, the one seed, they already out. They got outed. They got upset. So we served this guy 3 balls, and his range. It's like, dude, you're an indoor player. Dude, you need 2 blockers. You're trying to do a 2 block. You're trying to jump in on that 4 block switch. And he's like, 4 block? I'm still going to go cross anyway. I'm like, and I mean clean. So during the technical timeout, you literally saw me in the huddle behind the afro saying, we're not serving that guy anymore. But he won New Orleans. They beat
I know. I saw that.
Yeah.
He also won the next one, or he won something else right after that last weekend. Chaos somewhere or something.
He just needs to stop being a hitman for hire. Get a partner, train with him. Right now it's Logan Webber.
Right. I don't know that guy, though.
Logan's a guy out of Iowa, and I saw him at a USA. You remember those USA college invitationals Hermosa Beach has every year?
Sure.
That's the first time I saw him. And then I saw him at FIVB. And then he qualified with Christian Honer. And he's been switching partners, but they found each other, played 5 tournaments in a row, and now just stay with that guy for the rest of the year. Look, I got to give you the floor because I could talk all day. How important is it to actually just play consecutive tournaments? I know it's good to train with people, and I know it's good to switch partners here and there. How important is it for David Lee? Okay, and sorry. Is it pretty?
Ty.
No, Ty Loomis. How important is it for them to stay together until the end of 2021? Just getting there.
I don't know if those guys are actually training together to play together, but for grins, I feel you have to have that cohesion, man. I mean, you got to find a guy you're comfortable with and grind it out with him. You got to make sure before you start the journey, hey, this is my guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Whoever that is, get the reps. I mean, there's nothing but. You can only improve when you're playing with the same guy. You got to know tendencies. You got to get the sets down. Especially with the game now, how it's moving around so much. Guys are going back and front and quick and slow. You got to know what your guys doing on the block. You got to have a system in place in defense.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I think what is attractive to young players is when they get hit up by an AVP guy, or someone that has points.
Right.
Well, they think that might be the best thing, but in reality, I believe that going with your guy and just grinding it out for a season is instrumental in growth. I mean, just doing that and having a training regimen that you stick to, that you get in the habit of doing, that teaches you how to be a professional.
Yeah.
If you can do that and get that with another guy, get that rapport, then you're going to, you'll be successful. You'll get better.
I mean, if you switch up partners, I understand, and I agree with you that you shouldn't just go with someone for points for its own sake. The 2 exceptions are to have a partner where you don't have to deal with your partner, and which is why I think Ty Loomis and David Lee, personality-wise, like Ty Loomis likes to whoop it up, but it's not a 3-on-1 situation where you have to deal with his personality. He has your back, right? If your chemistry and if you're down with that, he has your back and you have his. So if you're that kind of player, that's why him and Madison McKibben won San Francisco a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah,
man, they had each other's. Madison's like, all right, this guy likes to, block someone and walk away like he shot the sheriff. Yeah. I come back. I'm not going to get ace the next play because I'm thinking about him. No, I got his back, right? So that gives you an insight on the personalities I'm talking about. And the second thing is, if you're going to have a temporary partner, make sure he's the single best hitman for hire. For example, Dave Palm, right?
Yeah, I played with Dave Palm.
Dylan Merrick picks him up. They beat Case Beer and Shock on center court. I mean, and Dave Palm has an interesting story. He got dropped 3 days before a tournament for like a bid tournament to get into Manhattan Beach, and he picks up Lochek or something like Casey Lochek. Lochek is playing pickup. He's like, where you going? Come play with me in this tournament, and he wins. So it's but that's an example of a hitman for hire, a fucking caveman actually. Yeah. So
David Palm and I actually played together. And,
do tell.
Yeah, 20. I want to say it was. So I retired in 2012. It was the first year of the NVL. I can't remember if that was 12 or 13. And I was still playing, hanging on a little bit. And I could still get out in the sand. And I needed a young guy that could jump and play and do all that stuff. And I played a tournament with my ex-partner, Jake Elliott, just for grins in Georgia. Oh, my gosh. What's the name of that? Some beach in Georgia. Oh, God, I can't think of the name of it. And anyway, we played it starts with a T. Tybee Beach, does that sound right? Maybe in Georgia.
Maybe I'll ask Tom Black or someone see what.
Yeah. So anyhow, we're there, and him and I are like the 5th seed, and we're playing okay, but we're just not explosive. But we're having fun, and it's good to see each other. We haven't seen each other in a long time. And our first game is against David Palm and his partner. And I'd never seen David Palm before, and he's like jumping over the net. He's 19 or 20 at the time.
Jeez.
So I'm like, and I know that I'm going to go play this NVL because the Hannemans asked me to come over and, do some clinics with my medal and do some things and kind of be their front man, right? So I agreed to it, but I wanted a good partner, so I picked up David, and we played the first one in Dallas, and we took a third. We lost to Baumgrens in the crossover.
Okay, Tim and Brian.
Yeah, it was a solid event. Really interesting story is they're serving me every ball, and I'd never played against the Baumgrens either. I hadn't seen them. I'd been obviously on my indoor journey, and these guys obviously are really good. Tim blocked me 8 times in the first set. And my wife is it's like 21-14, right? Mm-hmm. I'm coming off getting water. My wife walks up. She goes, "Hey, I've never seen you get blocked that many times." And I said, "Thanks, honey. Appreciate it. I love you."
And he's like, but wait, shit! I played Serbia, Montenegro with a triple block, and I could
she didn't see all those, But I mean, it was literally just boom, 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 And anyway, we went 3 sets, lost 16-14, tough match, But I knew David was going to be really good. He has the heart, he has the passion, and so every time I go to Florida, I run out and hang out with him and see what he's up to. But we played together for one tournament. And then I played one more NVL, and then I was done. Or maybe I played 2 more. I can't remember. But, he's a great guy and great, like you said, hitman for hire. He's exactly that. I hope to see him have some success on the AVP.
Yeah, I mean, I coached him and Jeff Samuels at Huntington. And
cool.
It was just crazy, like watching 2 blockers, like split block and this and that. And everything seemed normal. But we ran into Dylan Merrick and Brandon Clemens. And Brandon Clemens, when that Harvard guy, when he's on fire, there's so many ways. You as an indoor player can appreciate the variations of cross court that this man can hit.
Right.
And,
absolutely.
And Dave Palm, I think our mistake was Palm insisted on just blocking lines. He thought just blocking line both sides of the net was good enough to get into the draw. And under normal circumstances, he'd be right. But that last round, I think we both know you're probably going to run into someone who's already been in the draw. To play in, you're never going to run into someone, that hasn't
it's
been,
a tough
been in the
match. It's going to be a ball game. You got to be ready.
So they ended up winning in 2-0, Clemens and Marek, and then Marek ended up playing with Palm, so that was pretty cool. And then Palm played with Camacho. Then he played with Camacho in Austin, Dana Camacho.
I played against Dana for a long time. So my first 2 years before, so when I was 18, I was 19, played a year on the Wilson qualifying tour. Mm-hmm. So I only went to 2 years of junior college. That was it. I don't have a degree. I don't have, after my second year at Pierce Junior College, I started playing professionally, when I was 19 years old. So my route was really different getting to the national team. But I played a year on the Wilson tour and then qualified for the AVP. So I was exempt for the first 4 events, played those events. I took 2 9ths and 2 17ths. Which was great finishes back then. I mean, it was a 3-day event back then. To get to Sunday was an absolute, miracle, especially for 2 19-year-old kids. Me and Jake were both 19 and young, and we were out there, hanging out, partying, doing all the stuff that you do as a young AVP guy. But it was, again, you talk about the cohesion through partners. So I actually moved to South Carolina to train with him, because I figured it wouldn't do us any good, me being in Houston, him being in South Carolina, if we didn't get to train together. And if I was going to do it, we were going to do it the right way. And, we obviously, that's what we did. We trained 4 hours a day, get to where we were really comfortable with each other. And that's what we did. We had a great season on the AVP. And then right after that, I was asked to come to the national team. So I was in Europe the following year, playing my second year in Italy. And Doug Bill just happened to call me. Someone had seen me over there, and he said, "Hey, we've never met, but I'd like you to come and try out for the World League roster." And I was like, I was absolutely over the moon.
Are we there yet? Yeah.
Well, the first thing is I said, "This is not Doug Beal. Who the hell is this?" Because I was really convinced it was one of my friends playing a joke on me. Mm-hmm. And, over in Europe, you got nothing else to do. So we're always jacking around with each other. But it was really him. My wife sitting across from me going, be calm. And at the time I didn't know what to do. So the next call was to Jake and said, "Hey, dude," he goes, "Man, if you come here and play the AVP, I'll kick your ass.
Yeah.
You're going to the national team.
You told him I got some good news and some bad news. That's what you told him. I got some good news and some bad news.
Yeah, exactly.
So
right.
Doug was Doug the coach in 2004?
Yeah, 2000 and 2004 was Doug Bill, and Hugh McCutcheon was his assistant. Hugh McCutcheon took over in 2004 to 2008.
Right.
Then Hugh went from '08 to the women's side, from '08 to 12. Then Alan Knight came in 2009 to 2008, 2012.
Right.
Or right after the Olympics.
Yeah. But wow, I talked to Ryan Millar about the match you guys played in Greece. Ryan was on the podcast, and because I just had a question for him. Basically, you guys are down 20-12. You're down 2-1 against Greece in Athens. He said there was like a bonfire like in the corner. There was like this big party atmosphere. He's like, "Is the place on fire?" No, they lit up a fire in the gym and no one cares.
A flare.
Yeah. Ridiculous, right? Ridiculous.
Yeah.
So for the people listening that didn't get a chance to listen to Ryan Millar, basically 12-20. Down 2-1. Don Sucho comes in, right?
Yeah.
Comes in, I guess, because he ain't getting no playing time. Might as well put him in. Y'all ain't going to win.
Yeah.
You guys come back and win the fourth set. Fifth set, to make it 14-13. Donald Sucho had this nice on-two, almost like a right-hand knuckle, like a jumbo shrimp over the libero.
It was Lloyd's kind of shot. It was a pineapple.
Yeah.
So that's what. Yeah. So Lloyd calls it the pineapple because it looks like a pineapple and drops, right?
Yep.
So as Donald had some variation of that shot, but another thing is we were down 8-5 in the fifth.
Yep.
On the switch, and it was incredibly noisy in there, to say the least. I mean, it was 20. I want to say it was either 28 or 32,000 people. And we literally, you couldn't hear each other talking until it was match point.
Yeah.
And then it was quiet it was quiet as a church in there.
So the question I had for Ryan, it's 15 up, right? Someone in the crowd blows a whistle. The Greek players stopped playing. In fact, I think the only two people that didn't stop playing were Don Sujo, the setter, and Millar, who hit the quick set on it. And it was so weird, and it's crazy because I had video and now I don't have it, but it doesn't. Now I don't care. We're showing another video. But I guess my question to Ryan is, I'm going to ask you the same question. Did you guys hear the whistle and Ryan just instinctively just follows through? Because sometimes your twitch reaction and your mind or what's sending messages to your body to not swing or swing. Did you guys hear the whistle, or was it so fucking noisy in there? You didn't hear it. You weren't sure if you did or didn't, and just hit.
Well, they weren't allowed to have those whistles in the crowd, supposedly.
Right.
But as soon as the match starts, you hear they're everywhere. I mean, so you're used to it, right? It's just blaring off, and I don't remember exactly. I know Ryan, if he heard it, I know he was going to hit the ball anyway. I mean, we were just playing through everything at that point. And,
right.
I don't remember hearing it. As a whistle, right? There was all kinds of noise all over the place. But I can remember that play, and I remember the look on the Greek guys' faces. It was just it looked like their hearts had just been ripped out too. It's like, what the heck just happened? But
I had to rewind it. It because when Ryan Millar hit it, four of the Greek players were looking at the ref.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't think that was a double. I don't, what was the call? So, and then, oh man, that was terrible. That was great. I mean, I was in Barcelona and that happened. Japan had match point. Actually, Japan already should have won. There were 2 yellow cards on Bob Samuelson. It should have been a red.
Yeah.
That should have been a rat. But then, off of a dig, someone in the crowd blew the whistle and Japan was celebrating like they won. And Scott Fortune screaming at the top of his lungs. No, he didn't blow the whistle because the top ref thought the bottom ref. The top ref thought the bottom ref blew the whistle. It was, dude, that whole fourth set was chaos. It was, first of all, Ivy gets hurt wiping the floor. They have like rags, they have these little towels on the shirt. He just falls, his knee gives out, wiping the floor.
Yeah.
Enter Samuelson. Yellow card, and then at match point, a second yellow, which they never penalized him for, so now the match goes on. Steve Timmons on match point, hits out one out of the D zone. The refs call him over the line. The replay shows he's behind.
He's not. Yeah.
Japan has match point. Someone in the crowd blows the whistle. They think the match is over. All of this shit happens in the fourth set. It's great. Only at the end for the Olympic Committee to do the right thing, right? I mean, two yellows is a red. Japan deserved the win, but and then everyone shaved their heads. To
absolutely.
Samuelson.
That was like the first time I'd ever really watched volleyball ever, and I
was at that game. I was at that game.
That's awesome. What were you there doing?
I was Well, I can't talk about the mission, but I was on this mission with the Italian Army, the United States Army.
Okay.
So I wound up in Sardinia on top of a hill with a bunch of yucca bushes with an Italian soldier that didn't speak English. I didn't speak Italian, but we both spoke Spanish. So we did that.
Yeah.
So we wound up in Switzerland and then wound up somewhere else and wound up in Barcelona. So everywhere we went, we didn't have civilian clothes. We had like our BDUs, like like the jungle things, the Class Bs. So they were like, "Hey, you guys want to come in and watch a game?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah!" I was playing with a military community team at the time, and then the club team, Darmstadt, I got yanked off the team for this mission. They didn't have. I was a generator mechanic. They didn't have any enough generator mechanics for the mission. So I got yanked off of the club team and the military community team, and then by hook or crook wound up watching game 1. USA versus Japan in Barcelona.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's weird. That's crazy how life takes you there, right?
Yeah, I'm probably on camera somewhere.
What did you do as a generator mechanic? Can you tell me what that was like? What is that?
Well, a diesel generator mechanic, I serviced 5Ks, like 10K generators. Sometimes the 50Ks for hospitals. I trained at Fort Belvoir. I went to boot camp at Fort Knox, Kentucky. And then I trained in Fort Belvoir along with refrigeration and air conditioning repair guys, turbine engine repair. So it was Army, Air Force, Navy, and Marines. So AIT, everyone trains together. So I supported a signal unit that supported military intelligence. So
cool.
So Ranger unit had to go. The signal unit was close by, and where there's a signal unit, you need a wheel mechanic for the Humvees. And you need a generator mechanic. So they always look for volunteers. I'm volunteering. I brought the Nintendo. This dude brought the TV. The third person brought, the sergeant in charge brought the propane grill. And we if something broke down, we fixed it. And then, whoever's not on guard duty, we yanked them for spades, to play spades. And that was my time. I served 90 to 93. It was kind of between wars. 2 weeks before I graduated AIT, the ceasefire in Kuwait happened. I ended up going anyway for 3 weeks or whatever, just to play sand golf. But
I played a year. I played a year in Kuwait.
You did.
I played a season there. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, that must have been. Tell us about that.
Yeah.
Come on. I don't get to hear this everywhere. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Wild. Absolutely wild, man. Get there, and the guy that is the end of my career, 2011, I think, is my second to last season that I played. Dave McKenzie was a guy that played before me for this club for like 5 years, right. And they brought me in to replace him as a left side hitter. Well, David was traditionally an opposite, and he jumped really high, and he was extremely physical, and he hit crazy angles. He was the complete opposite than I am. But as they bring me in and they're trying to coach me, all they would say is jump higher, like Dave. Jump higher, like Dave. That was the whole coaching. I got every single set for 3 months. And, I can hit the ball, like you said, but that's not my primary role, right? My primary role is to control the ball, be a great leader, do all the little dirty work. Well, they wanted me to do everything there. So it lasted about 2 months. We made it to the Final Four, and we had to win this match to go to like a Champions Cup, essentially. And I played really poorly, pulled me right off the court and fired me in front of everybody.
No.
Yeah,
Jesus
absolutely.
Christ.
It was
man, the shit that happens to you and Dave McKenzie, man.
Man, it was unbelievably wild. It was I can't think. He was royalty over there. He was in charge of all of the cell phones in Kuwait. His family owned. So they took me out to his palace. By the way, a palace. And I'm talking a real palace. And he comes out, the owner dressed in the gear and everything. And I see 2 Bentleys, 2 Maseratis, a Ferrari it was unbelievable.
Jesus.
It was unbelievably crazy. They had a lot of money, but they didn't know anything about volleyball. It was a really poor league.
No. And no real coaching, I guess, too. You
zero,
jump higher. You hit a ball out, look, hit in.
Yeah.
But McKenzie,
our general manager slapped a 19-year-old kid in the back of the head because he hit set point out. And he was sitting right beside me. And I just turned up and I said, hey, man, we got to calm down here.
But
and
damn, don't we all want to smack that kid in the back of the head?
It was crazy. It was crazy, man. I was like, holy cow, what am I doing? And it was really wild.
I could picture myself watching it, like set point, he hits it out. I'm like, and I could picture me watching the TV, like, man, someone smacked this kid.
Yeah.
Oh shit! I was kidding. I was kidding. Don't you slap the kid?
Shit out of it. It was hard. But another really interesting fact is that this 19-year-old kid who was he was a Kuwait citizen. He got a $3,000 stipend a month from the government because he was Kuwaiti. And then he also got $3,000 a month to play volleyball. So at 19 years old, this kid's making $72,000 to play worse than high school volleyball. I mean, it was unbelievable. So, I embraced the experience. Like I said, try to learn something from it. And I learned I wouldn't go back and play in that league, but it was a fun experience. And, you're grateful to get us another season and kept the checks coming in for a little bit and paid some bills for the family.
Yeah. Dave McKenzie, he was on a podcast we did it from, he lives in Malaysia, but we did that.
Yeah, sure.
And he mentioned a shortstop in Kuwait, but I didn't get the story that you just gave me in detail. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, he was there actually 3 years, I believe, like a pretty decent amount of time, or 3 seasons.
Yeah. I think I actually asked him about like him getting flagged for like a banned substance or whatever. He's like, I don't want to talk about that. And then like 5 seconds later, you know what? I'll talk about it. It was, and he was right. Look, it was just this weird thing where like in order for him to take the test, it would cost him more money, his own dime, to take the flight to where they're doing the testing. He was telling me the testing didn't come to you like the UFC, right? Wake you up 4 o'clock in the morning, pee in a bottle. He's like, I'm not paying the money that he was making in the league. He's not going there to take a test on his own dime because there was some kind of red flag or whatever and this and that, And it wasn't even like a performance enhancing drug. It was like a banned substance, Like your thing. I read about you. You were an Avalide. Avalide, like I worked in a cardiology practice for 17 years.
Hydrochlorothiazide was what I tested positive for, which is also a masking agent, which I had no idea for.
But it's legal. Look, it's so weird, like how something like cocaine or whatever is illegal to sell or whatever, but it's not a banned substance.
Yeah.
And then you have something, a blood pressure medication that's not only legal, but good for you. First of all, it's AstraZeneca. I'm not a big drug guy, but AstraZeneca, that's Avalide, that's Avapro, right? Avalide is like Avapro with hydrochlorothiazide.
Right.
So
exactly.
So am I good or what?
That's pretty impressive. I didn't know that I was going to be dealing with this, but that's actually spot on. So what's interesting about the story though is when I get popped, I'm playing in Italy, and I'm all over the place. I don't want to be there. It's been a tough year. I actually started the year in Turkey and got E. coli. And so I was sick with E. coli. And I was trying to get treated in Turkey, and I was diagnosed with a possible brain tumor. And there was 2 other horrible diagnoses. And I said, you know what? I'm going home today. So I leave on my own. I don't tell them. I'm going to the airport. I just bought a ticket at the airport and bounced home. Well, when I get back, they put me on that medicine. They run a gamut on me, and I have E. coli. That's what it comes down to. And so I said, okay, well, what does that mean? Well, you can't do anything for 8 weeks minimum. So, I go back and I tell everybody in Turkey, they think I'm lying because I took $100,000 up front as a payment. And they think I don't want to go back, which is not, it wasn't the case. I was really sick, and so they're telling me they're not going to pay me any more of my contract, which is, I've been paid, I guess, about close to a third of what I was going to make, maybe in that area. And, I'm trying to get healthy, but I'm like, hey, I'm on all of these prescriptions. I said, I can't do anything for at least 8 weeks. I'll come back in 8 weeks. And they said, no, you need to come back in 4. And, being the young, gullible guy that I was, I needed the money. So I showed up there, and then they convinced me to play the next week. I start warming up, and my blood pressure goes to, I think it was 210 over 180 when I got pulled off the court.
Hell?
Yeah. Almost
Lord.
dying, right?
Yes.
And so fortunately, long story short, I leave again the next day, and then I go and get treated. You have E. coli. You cannot do anything for 6 weeks. So I don't. But at the end of the year, I get a job in Treviso, which is one of the better clubs, obviously. Back in the day, is actually probably the best volleyball club. And I was going over to back up Poppy and Shazola, who were the 2 outside hitters from 2000 to 2008.
Yeah.
Best probably duo in the world for a long time. So I was going as a third outside, very minimal stress, but if somebody struggles, I could go in and settle it down. Well, I get over there and I'm taking the medicine because I have to stay on it. And I have no idea that it is a doping violation. None at all. I've been taking it for 3 or 4 months. And I take the test in Italy, and then 2 weeks later, I'm home, season's over, or maybe 3 weeks, and I get the test result. And I immediately call our athletic trainer, and he's like, what have you been taking? I said, nothing. And he said, well, this is like it's a masking agent. And I said, no, well, I don't know what it was. Long story short, I end up going home to Houston, and a really good friend of mine is a pharmacist, and he goes, hey, dude, that hydrochlorothiazide is in your, it's a diuretic, and it's also in that Avapro that you take.
Yeah.
And the mystery was solved. So called, I went to Switzerland the next week. They basically accredited me for time served.
Good.
I had a 3-month suspension that was really just the time that I was already off of it anyway. But
What doctor made you switch from Avapro to Avalide though? Like Avapro on its own is a blood pressure med.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they did that. I have no idea. Yeah. I mean, I really don't know.
I'm only asking for interest because before I started doing this volleyball, this gangster shit full time, I worked in a cardiology practice for 17 years. After the military, my guy looked at my resume and said, hey, okay, good enough to serve in the Army, good enough to work for me. So which is an old school virtue, but I worked at his name was Dr. Rosenfeld. He was kind of like the doctor of the stars. And I learned so much about the practice. And even though he's looking at me like, why do you care? He's like, you're here because, he says, I know when you leave, you're going to be coaching City College, NCAA, right? When you leave here, you're going to be auditioning for this play because that's my major in college was theater performance. So he's the one that told me to go out and do all those things. But he's like, so in addition to all these things, you want to know about drugs too? And I'm like, yeah. Because when the pharmaceutical reps come, I could save him a bunch of time. Having conversations and how does Dr. Roosevelt feel about this? I can tell him, and if he needs to talk to him, he can. So I just gave me a raise too, by the way, because when I started knowing shit, I'm like, give me some more money. But yeah, that was just a curiosity question. Like Avapro is basically they don't have anything in there that would get you flagged. I mean, it's crazy, and I hate it because it makes it seem like you're trying to get over on someone. It's not even, ladies and gentlemen, that's not a performance enhancing drug. It's a banned substance, okay? Terbanolol is a performance enhancing drug, right? Yeah. Again, when Chael Sonnen got busted, they're like, why did you take PEDs? He says, I took performance enhancing drugs to enhance my performance. Do you think I'm going to take something that's going to diminish my performance? Are you crazy?
Absolutely.
Let's jump before I forget. How'd you get started with volleyball? I mean, the people got to know. Boom.
Yeah, well, I was in Texas. I grew up in Texas. I didn't know volleyball. Not that I didn't like it. Thought it was a girls' sport like everybody else in Texas. One day I'd made the freshman basketball team, got cut as a sophomore from the basketball team, and my mission was to make the JV team as a junior. So I was going to open gym every day to play basketball, but my good buddy was going to play volleyball in the girls' gym. They had, they do pick up sixes or whatever it was over there. One day the gym's being resurfaced from my basketball open gym, and I was like, oh man, I got to sit around for 2 hours now. Walk over, and I'm just sitting there, and they're like, hey, we need one. Why don't you jump in here? I'm like, no, I'm okay, man. I really don't want to.
That's for girls, man. Yeah, that's what you're thinking.
And he said, hey, just play till this other guy gets here. Turns out that there was never a guy coming. But I was like, okay, I'll jump in. Then I was left front. They threw me up left front first. They served us. The ball was shanked over towards me. And so the setter's running, and he can only bump it up to me. So he bump sets me. I took 2 steps and hit it and looked at everybody, and I was like, wow. That was fun. And they're like, you've never done this before? I said, no, never. I said, but I want to. And literally it was like a 1 second deal, like I hear a lot of people that have that sensation, but I played from that day 5 years in a row without missing a day, so I started, that was my junior year. I was really fortunate. We had a club volleyball team on our high school. You had to go and pay for yourself, but we had someone organize it, and we got to play like 6 other high schools. And we would play right after the varsity match. So that was pretty cool. There would be still 20, 30 people watching. And so it started growing the game, made a junior Olympic team that was across town up on the north side of Houston. So it'd take me an hour to drive there, sometimes an hour and a half for practice, and then an hour back to my house. But I made the team, and it was essentially these guys that had played for Episcopal High School. And there's a private school league that's been around for a long time. And they had 5 guys that they've been playing together for 3 or 4 years as a club, and they needed 1 more guy. So they threw me in there. We ended up we beat Balboa Bay at our first nationals, which was a big deal for us. Obviously their first team, they're always really good. This is really the national championship was the last tournament, and I'd never been recruited. So by the time we get to that last tournament, there's a couple of junior colleges coaches there and come up to me and said, "Hey, where are you from? What do you do?" And I said, "Oh, man, I'm going to, what are you going to go do?" I said, "Probably go to junior college here and work in the plants. That's what I planned on doing."
Yep.
And they said, "Why don't you come out to California? Why don't you come out and try it?" My mom's standing right beside me, and we're in Austin, and then we got to drive back to Houston. And we just get in the car. She's like, "What do you think about that?" I'm like, "I think it'd be great. It'd be fun to do." I said, "I didn't even know you could play in college." I'd known some of our guys were going, but I didn't think it was for me. Well, I get out there, and then when I get to Pierce, they take me out to the AVP. It was an AVP next or whatever it was, Wilson at the time. And I saw that, and I was like, that's what I want to do. And so kind of put all my time and resources into practicing volleyball, going to school, probably as little as I could, just enough to get by to pass the classes. But I loved California. And then I went on, after the Pierce, I went and played in Europe, got on the national team, and obviously
So that was Pierce College though, right?
It was Pierce College.
Yeah.
I played a year at Foothill College was my first year, and my second year was at Pierce College.
Was there a Jimmy Fears there? Cole Fears' dad said he played there, or Cole Fears said his dad played there.
I don't know with me.
Okay.
Not with me. I don't think.
Okay. All right.
No, doesn't sound familiar.
Nah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then but to start was really weird. I had no idea I'd be playing volleyball that day. It was the last thing I thought was going to happen. And then as soon as I jumped up and hit that ball, the feeling was like, oh, this was so cool. So, and I tell that story often, and that's, and I still go, Texas now has gotten a lot bigger in boys volleyball. They have a pretty decent couple programs down there.
Yeah.
And, recruiting there, obviously I go there and recruit for Jamestown, and then kind of just in Southern California right now, seeing what's going to happen next.
Yeah. It's so weird that, okay, not for California, but for Texas, right? You don't think of men's volleyball as a college sport because you look at all of the big colleges, Texas A&M. Let's go to Notre Dame. Let's go Michigan State. Let's go Nebraska, right? All of these big schools, Florida, right? Florida State, South Carolina. None of these teams. Every team I mentioned, none of them actually have an NCAA team.
Men's.
Yeah. Like I've coached NCAA for 12 years, but the coolest thing I've ever done was I coached a high school team that was a championship team that produced no NCAA players. Right?
I heard you say that on the. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
They're just look for these kids, but for those kids, student came before the student athlete, right? That school.
Yeah.
That school was. Dude, I'm glad I landed that. I don't even know how I landed that. Justin Stack, thank you. But that school led the nation in two categories. It was cumulative SAT scores and Ivy League application acceptance. So that's
awesome.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Outside hitter Johns Hopkins, Oppo and libero Brown, the setter Yale. So. Yeah, Lehigh, Penn. So, and none of those schools, a whole bunch of schools I just mentioned, don't have a men's team.
No.
The only one that did was Vassar, and that guy, he was in the middle. He played basketball. He's a two-sport athlete, so I'm gonna go play basketball. But the reason why I was asking is because in this world of politics and how politicking and these cliques and these section of good old boys clubs shape how the U.S. national team. Some people. How the hell did someone like you? How the hell did you slip in?
Yeah.
How the hell did you slip in there? How did you get in
rare.
there?
and obviously it helps in recruiting. And whenever I'm coaching with some high performance stuff, and I tell these kids like, hey, this stuff is possible. I'm literally the living example of it. Is it going to happen to every kid? No, but it's definitely possible.
Yeah.
And it's exactly like you said. I slipped in. What I did well is I was just always a great teammate. So any team I was on, that was kind of, hey, this kid's, he's all right, but he really is a good teammate. And I got an opportunity in 2000. Okay, so I'll take you back to 2000. Right before the U.S. national team, the Olympics in Sydney, they had a warm-up tournament for those same teams with a couple of other teams in Italy. Or I'm sorry, it was in France, not Italy. And our Olympic team was beat up. They could not make, the A team could not make that tournament. So they didn't have a B team really. And so what they did is they got a hold of this guy named Tim Kelly and a couple of other guys that knew some people in Europe. And they put together what we ended up calling was the Bad News Tour, like Bad News Bears, because it was just guys literally thrown together at the very last minute to go over and compete against the best teams in the world. And we were just we were going to get annihilated, you know. It was all guys right out of college. Kyle Robinson was on that team. If you probably know
Mike
him.
Salek, played with Mike Salek at Southampton.
Yeah. Okay.
LIU.
Great. Yeah. Salik's a great guy.
How small is our world?
Yeah. Well, it's all, I saw you with the hat, and I'm trying to think of some other guys that you might know on that team. But we had Chris Seifert, Adam Navy, Brandon Talaferro, some guys that
Maybe
were
Tariq,
really good in college. Mm-hmm. And then they had me, who had been over in Italy for 2 years balling, but nobody knew who I was.
Right.
So they called me and said, "Hey, why don't you come over?" And then that was my first ever, initiation with USA Volleyball. It was playing against these massive. We were playing against. I can remember our first match was against Italy, who was 2 in the world. And, we look over and see Poppy and Faye. And we're just like all just kind of, okay, well, here we go. Yeah. But I balled out. I played fearless, and that's what those coaches noticed. And they obviously reported back to Doug Beal. I got back to Italy to play my second season, and then got that phone call I was mentioning about.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of being at the right place at the right time. I got really lucky. I think God put me in a path, and I got in the situation and said, okay, well, you're only going to be here once. Give it all you got.
Faye's such a good player, man.
What's that?
Faye, such a good player, man.
God, he was good.
You need him to play oppo. I think in 2008, I think they had so many injuries. The guy had to play middle and then opposite or whatever. I think their roster got shortened to 8 people. I think they had like 3 or 4 ridiculous injuries. I'm not sure.
Well, and the Italian national team is really interesting. They don't get along, a lot of those guys, because they're constantly competing for top spots in Italy, right? Because if you have a top national team Italian, that is awesome. You can bring in another foreigner, right? So it's essentially, all those guys have been competing against each other for years, and they don't like each other. So, sometimes they'll put it together, sometimes they won't. Faye actually played with in Treviso and rented an apartment right above him, which was his apartment. He owned the whole building, which was really cool.
And where is this again?
That was in Italy, in Treviso.
In Treviso.
Yeah, and he was, he was
because I went to Tuscany and I thought I saw him. I swear to God, I thought I saw him in Tuscany. I was in Italy. Sorry, go ahead. I was in Italy 2 years ago.
Yeah, no, he's just a great guy. He played hard. He could do everything though. He could hit the ball fast on the right. Good blocker. Seemed to most of the time would stay even kill, but if you talk trash to him, he would get going.
Yeah, that's like giving Popeye spinach, dude. Just sometimes you got to let a sleeping tiger lie, man. Very much like the Brazilians too. The Russians, Russians get a little fiery, little shit talkers or whatever. Yeah. New York.
Well, I was that guy. I was the trash talker, right? And I had to be talked down. Hugh really made me not do that because I think we were playing against a guy named Kaczynski. Does that name sound familiar to you?
Yep.
So Kaczynski was, for guys listening, he played for Bulgaria, touched 12-3. One of the most physical outside hitters I'd ever seen and played against. And he was having an off match against us. We were in World League. We're up 2-0, pretty rolling through the match. And I think I blocked him one-on-one on the right side, which didn't happen right. They were in row 1. I happened to block him and said something to him. He goes back and fires off 6 aces in a row, or 4 aces in a row, starts hitting balls out of the bic, goes to the left side, ends up going 5. We win 17-15, I think. But, he ended up with 37 points.
Yeah. And your coach was like, we didn't have to do this the hard way, man.
Yeah. And so he pulled me aside right after that game. Hugh said, look, man, don't ever do that again.
Yeah.
And he goes, I'm not kidding. Hugh and I have a great relationship, and he's one of my best friends and mentors.
No, but you almost gave him a heart attack, dude.
And he
right?
Said,
he's a nervous Nelly.
He said, if you do that again, I will take you off the team. And I said, okay, point understood. And he only said that to me one other time when we got into a little bit of an altercation after a match, and same kind of thing, emotions rear hide. As a player, I wear my emotions on his sleeve, and he was really good about controlling them. Yeah. He would always let me get up to the line, but as soon as I crossed it, it was immediately, get back over there. And, man, you talk about a great coach and a person who knows how to frame conversations and articulate his words to get the absolute maximum out of his players.
He's one of the best 5 coaches for indoor I've ever met, encountered in my life. There's a guy named Aaron Mansfield who took over for Tom Black at LMU.
I played with Aaron, dude. I played with Aaron at Foothill College.
Aaron is a savage. Really? As a player too, as a coach, he is a savage. He took over for LMU. They beat BYU to get in the NCAA. They beat Duke in 3 and wound up against Stanford. Little old LMU, and he's doing some really good things out there. And talk about players that do more with less. It's McCutcheon, him. I do like me some Tom Black and from there Mario Trebic.
Who's that?
Mario Tribic was the coach of the Netherlands in '92 and '96.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
And you probably see him if you referee some of these games. He's this old Russian guy, cold blue eyes, can't really see shit. But a lot of people don't know that he was on a coaching staff that has 3 silvers and a gold. He was the assistant coach with the women's team in '84. He was the assistant coach for the Soviet Union in '88. He was the coach of the Netherlands in '92, which is where I met him. He ended up being one of my mentors.
Okay.
I was an outside hitter. He told me to set. He's like, I'm 6'1". My wingspan's 6'8". So I'm also left-handed. So he says, find someone you like, watch videos of him. Jeff Stork was my guy.
Sure.
For a year and a half. A year and a half, I was watching videos of Jeff Stork. And then in '96, they beat Italy. The Netherlands beat Italy, so he was with all of those, and it's a small world. You mentioned Carl Robinson, like Mike Salick. How about his kid, Mario Tribic? His kid went to Hunter High School. I ended up coaching his kid in New York, on the Upper East Side, New York. So how small is that world? His kids are geniuses, by the way.
Awesome.
If your kid's at Hunter High School, you're brilliant. His other kid was at Bronx Science, which a lot of people know better as far as academic schools or whatever. So his kids are geniuses, and they're not volleyball players. No, they can't play volleyball worth shit.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that's really interesting.
But they're like wrestlers. This dude's like I don't know, a swimmer. But they've excelled at other sports. But they know volleyball, right? They grew up, but they're not good volleyball players.
I'm going to throw something at you right now. What about Long Island University? What do you think is going to happen there?
I don't know. All I know is Long Island University has one in Brooklyn, which I think is going to be okay.
That's the one that just went Division I.
Yeah. No, they had a Division I women's team for a long time.
I'm sorry, on the men's side.
Yeah. Well, good. I say good because the LIU Southampton, Salick and Carl played for, that was D2. And they dropped their campus. You know, I mean, at the same time, East Stroudsburg University got cut, Queens College got cut, Concordia, which that Concordia is so much better than the one in California because that was an international base.
Really?
Mario Gonzalez, Luis Mendez, who set for Hustle and Flow, set Taylor Sander and Taylor Crabb and Frankie Valdez. So he came out of Concordia or whatever. So, but tell me more about Long Island University. I think I'm in the dark.
Did you not know? So they just announced about a month ago that they're going to go Division I. And I want to say that they're partnering with the Division III men's program somehow. I'm not sure exactly how it's working.
They just might play EIVA, right? They might just do.
I'm really not sure. So I just kind of reached out to, I'm always interested in what's going on out there, and reached out to their athletic director a while back to see if they had hired anybody, if they're looking, or what the situation was. And he said they're talking, they have their candidates in mind, but they're always interested in talking to people. Mm-hmm. So I was just curious to see if there's anything, if they've got any traction going, if they're recruiting. I didn't know. I
think we owe it to ourselves. We are I know Carl Frantz got the job at Fairleigh Dickinson. I know that they have a men's team. They just introduced a men's team, NCAA Division I. Right. And I thought that was long overdue because, just recruiting in their own gene pool, man. That section in New Jersey all the way down to 5 Points, man. They're big on volleyball, beach volleyball more these days than indoor. But I was like, good for Carl because he was Jose's assistant at NYU. He was at Rutgers. He was a hack at Mount St. Vincent. I can't believe I'm teasing him because he wasn't like a real coach. He was a player that knew X's and O's. But sometime after Mount St. Vincent, he became a real coach. But I want to ask him if he knows anything about that.
Yeah, so I think that's up to 26 Division I and II teams.
Good.
In the NAI where we are, we're at 62. Yeah, which is interesting.
It's the wild west.
It's really interesting.
That's what Seydoux told me. Sorry.
The thing that's great about it is that it gives guys that might have messed up or just got overlooked or whatever. It gives them an opportunity to come back and get kind of a second chance. And the guys that I coach right now, we have several guys that are like that have really. We actually got a 5'8" outside hitter who jumps 44 inches, and I mean he was one of the better players in the league all the way up, through the whole season. But it's a really interesting division as far as how people are eligible, because really it's a very difficult to be
like the age system too, right? The age system.
Exactly.
Like my boy Seydoux, right? Seydoux Anjanko, he played for Cal Baptist, but I think he was at Park his first year. And Shamzu, like Seydoux came in, I think he was listed at 26 years old. I know that dude's like a fucking lion ass Cuban. I know he had to be older than that dude. And I know Seydou because he was in New York for 10 years. If you've ever seen him, or his cousin, there's this viral video of his cousin jump serving a ball, and then the overpass out of D zone. Takes the overpass out of D zone and hits it straight down.
Do you know a guy named? Does this name sound familiar? Leonel Marshall.
No.
Okay,
Tell
so
me.
Leonel Marshall was a Cuban guy, or he is a Cuban guy. He was, when I played my first year in Italy, I was 21 or 20 or 21. He was 18 years old.
Okay.
Touches 12'4", 12'5" at 6'6". So it is the most incredible thing that I've ever seen. I got to see it every day in the gym because I practiced with him. He would be this high over the net blocking, and I'm not joking. He would literally watch you and then throw his hands where you were hitting the ball. I mean, it was one of the most impressive things that I've ever seen as an athlete.
That's a good
general.
place to be, dude. Check out this video right now. Check out this video. This is the overpass.
Okay.
This is Seydou had this on his profile, but I knew it wasn't him because him and Shamsu look alike. Like everyone just lost their mind.
Yeah. So Leonel Marshall used to do that. He would serve, and then if it was an overpass and it was more than 5 feet, because he could touch 12.5, but he could broad jump 15 feet.
But so he got in the air fast. He's one of those hitters that had a quick jump.
Yeah, quick jump. I mean, everything about this guy was quick twitch. I mean, the cool thing about him is he could play every position, literally. He could set. He could play every position. Fortunately, he defected from Cuba when he was 22. So this kid at 18 was getting paid $100,000 to play on my A2 Italian team and taking $1,000 a month home. The Cuban Federation was taking the risk.
Oh,
so
man.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
so if you wonder why the Cubans defect in the volleyball world, I mean, it's obvious. It's very obvious. Like, it was my first encounter with a real Cuban player. And he had nothing. I felt so sorry for the guy, and he worked hard, and he was by far the most athletic person in volleyball. You know what I mean? So he ends up going on, and he signs with Treviso, and he makes a bunch of money.
Good for him,
and he did really well for himself.
Good for him, because Cuba, let me tell you something. That women's team, the three-time gold medalist, which I think if someone wants to make an argument for like best indoor team ever assembled, they never look towards the women. And if you're just thinking it from like a male or women perspective, I got to give them the rub. But the rumor was in 2000, their government reneged on the promissory note that the girls were allowed to pursue contracts in Japan. Japan had a premier league in the late 90s.
Sure.
Marela Luis, Torres, Carvajal, like all of those girls were whatever, but they reneged and kept them. So something strange happened. They lost the first 2 matches in pool. Right? And then somewhere, the rumor was they were promised the contracts again, and then they won the last 3 to get into the playoffs. I had to play the U.S. The U.S. actually did good in their pool, and I'm like, really? The U.S. has to play Cuba first because Cuba was effing around, and man, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't not. It's good for the country of Cuba to let those girls go, play in Japan, play in Italy. I know Italy has a good women's league too. The men is weird. The men is like in the 90s, it's Italy, and then the government cracks them because it's mob money. Then it's Russia, right? The next 10 leagues, I think Lloyd Ball played. Pretty played and Stanley played in the Russian league.
Kazan,
right?
all three of those guys.
And now it's Italy again, man. But Riley, it's mob money. It's like whenever the gig's up, they move the money to another league for laundering purposes. I hope I live through this podcast or after this podcast, but it's mob money. That's what's going on. So
one of the craziest things that I experienced I experienced so much chaos and interesting stories. And I used to carpool with Tom Hoff every day to and from the national team, and he would say, "Man, you got a story for everything." I've seen almost everything, but one of the first times I'd picked, my first 2 contracts weren't for really any good money, and my third one was for about $60,000 in Greece. And then I was partnered up with Clay Stanley. It was his first contract ever, so we got to play together in Greece. And we get there and we're settling in, and we hadn't got paid because they're waiting for this soccer game to pay us in cash. I played for this massive soccer game that was in our. I'm trying to think of the team was, oh my gosh, I can draw. Pauk was the name of the team we played for in Thessaloniki. And they have a massive soccer team, and it's, unbelievable. Anyhow, so they call us, say, "Hey, come get your money." It's like a $20,000. I'm going to pick up $20,000 in cash. and it's me and Clay's money.
Like
It's probably maybe,
tens and 20s in the fucking suitcase. No, go ahead.
So Clay goes, hey, pick mine up. I go, dude, I don't want to be driving around with this money, So anyway, I walk in to the soccer room, and there's mounds 5 feet high of money all across the room. I mean, it is one of the wildest scenes I've ever seen in my life. I couldn't believe it. This was before cell phones. You couldn't take, It's just something in my memory that was just, I was like, what is going on? And so they gave me 20 grand, and I walked out, and I get back and I start telling my wife. She's like, what do you mean? I go, money was lit like 4 feet in a huge circle around the room. And she's like, well, what are they doing with it? I'm like, I don't know. I said, it ain't good.
No. Did anyone at least scream, Riley, don't spend it all in one place?
Man, there was some interesting times in Europe. I mean, it was really fun, especially early on. I mean, there was just so much culture that we got to experience. And me and my wife have been together since high school, and we got to do that journey together, which was obviously great. Get to learn about other people, man. You lived in Europe for a long time. I think that the United States is by far the best country in the world, but it's awesome to learn other people's culture.
Yeah, I didn't want to go, but I'm glad I did. Sorry, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when I went my first year, my dad was he was in the Air Force, and he served, I want to say 7 years, something like that. Mm-hmm. And he said, you'll now understand why the United States is the best country in the world. He goes, call me in 3 weeks. And sure enough, when I called him I was like, I get it. I get it. But it was, I got to do that on someone else's dime. I got paid to do it.
Yeah, but you gotta love the Air Force, though. I mean, you go to a base on Rhine-Main, they have a Red Lobster there. They have beach volleyball courts, bowling alley. Because when I lived in Frankfurt, when we wanted to find something more acute, or just a taste of America instead of eating this bullshit food to survive. Yeah, we went to Rhine-Main. We went to the air base, man. The Air Force, man. Gotta love those guys. Sorry.
Yeah, my stepdad was awesome. He loved it. He worked on F-15s, F-4s. He was a mechanic.
Okay.
Since the time in Pakistan, he's got all these crazy Polaroids, man. It's just wild when you start going back through them and looking at it. It's just crazy how time flies. But the career was great, man. I had a great volleyball career. I loved getting to see the world. Japan was Brazil was my favorite place to play. I played there a season. Mm. Japan was my favorite place to compete just because they did great tournaments. They treated you well, ate well. And then obviously I got to say Puerto Rico is my second favorite place. That's where my wife's from.
Yeah. Oh, you got your Boricua.
Yeah, Boricua.
Nice. Cool. Well, for me, I'm mixed parents. My mom's black and my father's Irish and Swedish. I got a little Cherokee Indian, so anyone I go with is a mixed relationship. I got me the Harvard girl, the outside hitter and oppo. So I lucked out with that one. But hey,
good
look.
For you. Yeah, mine is she's a DS and a setter, and then she played collegiate softball as well. Mm-hmm. So there's a little fireball. Now she's actually doing bodybuilding at 46, and she took second in their first competition. So the way it works in Masters, she does Masters and the Open, and you have to as an amateur, you have to take first place to get your pro card. Mm-hmm. Well, she took second in both, so she missed it by one, and now she's training and lifting like a beast. I go to the gym, she lifts more than me. It's pretty fun. But I'm a big fan of traveling, or I was. I'm not saying I am anymore, but whenever I got to travel and see the world, it was awesome. And the thing that I was talking to a couple of young guys today that are out there training, or younger guys, and I was talking about the AVP. And, some of these guys, they train all year, and for 3 events only, they were a little disappointed. I'm trying to flip it on them. Like, guys, hey, you got to be grateful. This is kind of a weird time. Mm-hmm. It's so unusual for all of us right now. We don't know what's next. I mean, I think it's great because it kind of shows us, and, I'm a 24-hour a day guy. You don't know what's tomorrow. And I think the pandemic demonstrated that more than anything.
Well, they gotta travel. Anyway. Dude, they gotta go travel, dude. Atlantic City, I just said, was a $50K purse, right? I'm going to Wisconsin this Sunday for 2 weeks because I got my family has a house out there, like a whole nuclear family. The last month of June, we all get together, and
awesome.
They like to play golf. There's beach volleyball courts. So for anyone that's going to Wapaka, Oshkosh, they're looking for training. It's like 2.5 hours away, but it'll be worth your trip, and you can stay with me for one night. So I'm gonna be training 1 or 2 players. But the point I'm trying to make is Wapaka is is a competitive tournament. Atlantic
Absolutely.
City is a competitive tournament. The Mother Lode, right? That's a competitive tournament. Pottstown Rumble, just to have some fun, play some, manipulate your muscles. Grass. That's old school rules, right? It's side out, big court. They use the old ball. So don't be sitting here waiting for a 3-stop tour, man. Get out of there. Get on money you're probably not gonna win anyway, right? It's like a $20,000 first prize. That's assuming you finish first, that you got to split with your partner. Pray to God you have sponsors that pay for your coaches and everything else. But entrepreneur themselves. This kid, Evan Corey was just talking about.
Yeah.
Talk about a kid that's betting on himself and winning.
Yeah.
He has an apparel, a clothing and hat and apparel line called Blue Nose
Absolutely.
Athletics. Because this whole sunscreen on his nose. The kid, get out, everyone should want to be like Evan, or Miles. But
what's interesting, I'm just looking at my shirt, and Reed Pretty was really good. So this is Reed Pretty's company in Sand. That's what he does now, and he was really great at marketing himself, and he still is. He's still really good at it. But yeah, just like you just said, these young kids got to get out of Southern California. They got to do some other things. And when I see him on Friday, I'm going to actually suggest that exact same thing. Because I was just listening to him. I don't know him that well, but I think
I'm calling Atlantic City, so I'm going anyway. I'm calling.
Yeah, I think it's great. I'm with you. I think that that's what I did. My first couple of years, I was really fortunate. I had this guy named Randy Metter, we call him the Godfather in Houston, and he taught me how to play professional ball. He took me to all these little tournaments around the country. We did 25 stops. I don't know where. We were playing everywhere, just every weekend, going around playing. And he had his own schedule that he could make because he was working for a bank. And then he ends up going off and really killing it in real estate and opening up a couple sandbars in Houston. But I was really grateful because I didn't know about playing pro. How do you do it? How do you do it? What do you do? And the guy was 31, I was 18, or 17 even maybe, and teaching me a lot like kind of what Evan's doing right now. Obviously, we didn't have Instagram and all that stuff on how to market it ourselves, but how to handle yourself like a professional. Try to not kill yourself when you win. Don't go out and party so hard that you're not going to be able to train the next day.
The guy, he live streams every semis and finals, which, by the way, as far as being at the scene of the crime, he's always there. He's always every weekend. I look on my Facebook thing and I see a live stream, and it's him beating or losing to someone in the semis or finals too. So I think that's terrific. Don't be out there acting like everyone's supposed to come to you, man. That's the lack of inclusiveness. That's a generational thing for beach volleyball has been one of the big inhibitors. No one wants to talk about it because they're scared of getting canceled. But as far as having the right guy to talk about it, I think you've seen enough of my podcast to know, right? I'm not this way because I'm on the mic. I'm on the mic because I'm this way.
Right. And there's no reason to shy away from it. I think it's exactly right, though. No one wants to talk about it because they don't want to get axed from the AVP. They don't want to get that email saying you can't play in our 3 events. Hey man, get out there and market yourself. Go to Wapaka. If I was young, I'd be doing it. I'd love it. I love doing that stuff, traveling around, playing with your friends, and playing at a high level, especially. Don't forget about that. Those tournaments are incredibly competitive.
But Jeff Conover gave me the go ahead. Jeff Conover, I talked to him in New York. He says, I don't mind criticism as long as it's fair. And I said, what did you say? Did you say as long as it was fair, right? That's the deal? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, cool. So there's nothing I'm gonna say that's unfair. Sometimes I gotta apologize. Like for Mark Fornicari, he was arguing with a referee, and I was like, this dude's drinking. This dude's obviously drunk. And that was out of the scope of someone's skill set. So that was like a personal thing. And if someone finds that hurtful, then they come see me.
Yeah, sure.
We'll talk about it. I apologize. Clays and Sponsel, I've been one of their biggest critics because, like, in my mind, that's years and years of coaching dictate, like, I know something when I see it. And it didn't look like that they thought that they can win if they made it to the Olympics. But I owe them an apology now because as the facts change, so does my opinion. I mean, dude, it's like this killer instinct that you know them when you see them. Betsy Flint or Misty May. Yeah. Right? That kind of person that has that look like, if you serve me, I'm gonna fuck you up.
Yeah.
Mentally, psychologically, you're not going to be the same. All because you chose me to serve. And I didn't see that with Sponsor the last couple of years. I don't see that with Sarah Hughes. I don't see that with Brooke Sweat, who was Kerry's partner. Who I thought if Kerry played with Betsy, no disrespect to Brooke, she played with Betsy, that would have been a wrap. We wouldn't be having these conversations about Kerry retiring and all that stuff. It wouldn't. There's a reason why people don't serve Betsy, and it's not because she's a shitty setter. All right.
Yeah.
So
Right.
So that's, I really like the I don't know, not authorization, but like the go ahead I got from Jeff, who's the director. Like, that's not like that. We're not trying to chop off heads about anyone that has something bad to say about the AVP. And also, I don't take 19 things the AVP does right and one thing wrong and only talk about the one wrong thing, which, by the way, is in our human nature too, right? Straw man fallacies is the human being's paradise. It really is,
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Man.
Wait, you got 19 out of 20 kills?
What happened?
Yeah, tell me what happened, Riley. Yeah, you suck. So, right, I suck. 19 out of 20. So, but before we move on to volleyball, we talked about like good wives or whatever, good women or that player that support our bottom line and our brand. This is for young people because it's related, and I wanted to jump there, and then we go back to this. If you are lucky enough, because this is a man-driven show, young men, listen to me, listen to this man. If you are lucky enough to have a woman that lets you do whatever you want to do, and only asks you to do one or two things. Do the one or two things, man. Just do the one or two things, man. Happy wife, happy life, man. Just do the one. You're right. She wants to go on a trip. Are we there yet? Okay, because my wife likes to travel more than anything in this world. Me, very much like you. I'm a house cat now. I've done all the traveling the last 2 lifetimes. But if she want to go, we gonna go. So for all your young cats out there, looking for that special someone. I'm having a hard time finding where. No, just. She's not a drama queen and she ain't pressing you and only asks you to do these couple of things, man. Then you've already if you don't do those couple of things, you've already chose the kind of woman that you're going to wind up with. You're going to wind up with a drama queen that's not even going to let you sleep till 9 a.m. And now I'm done. Sorry about that. I had to get that part of my life. Go ahead.
No, great, man. It's interesting because I had a wife that she was my fiance, obviously, before. Mm-hmm. She said, we had one chance when I got the call to go to Europe. It was like, hey, you're going to go or not. And, I said, hey, what do you think? She goes, if you don't go, you'll regret this for the rest of your life. Oh. And, so went over there, and obviously the rest is history. And we've been together. Obviously, I'm going to agree with you, though. Do the 2 or 3 things that they ask you to do. It's not that hard. My family just came out to California they were here Thursday through Monday, and my kids have never seen the ocean, the Pacific. So, we went out to the beach, hung out all day. It was unbelievable. My son did not get out of the water, which was crazy. Because, I was in the water and it was freezing, but he wouldn't get out of it. So we had a great time. They left. It was cool. Yeah. But happy wife, happy life, absolutely.
And the water feels like baptism. Sometimes you get in that water, right? But when you get out, you feel like you could kick anybody's ass. Yeah. It's almost like you were baptized. The only thing we're missing is some kind of evangelical minister yanking them by the head, talking about heal this boy, man. Because when I got into that ocean. First of all, looking at it for the first time it reminded me how small and insignificant I am. It's huge. It's like it can swallow you up, and I mean nothing after I see this thing. But when I got in, first of all, my wife took a picture of it going on my toes, and I just went it's this weird picture, just like the very first picture. But like your son, I'll bet you if you said it felt like baptism, he'd be like, he'll co-sign on that.
Yeah, I agree. He would not get out of the water. It was one of the coolest things I'd seen, as a parent. It's just like him just out there having a good time by himself, taught himself how to body surf, just pretty cool things.
So listen, let's take a shift because I don't know when we have to go. Your time is exceptionally valuable. Mine is too. I'd like to ask an uncomfortable question, but I think us talking about it might be useful to some people who might be battling similar things. You've had an opioid addiction and alcoholism, and people are playful about the term alcoholism, but you don't really know what it is until you're an actual alcoholic. All right, you're not. I mean, I look at some of my people. I'm like, no, you're a drunk. Okay, alcoholics go to meetings. You're just a fucking drunk. All right. So, how did the opioids start? Did it start because of pain management? Just the grind of indoor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and this is one of the best things that I love to talk about. And if anybody out there is listening right now and you're suffering, I get it. I understand. If you need to talk, I can get you my number somehow. But yeah, it started I had a couple of issues. Tore my rotator cuff, tore meniscus. Got some hydrocodone, and that was take as prescribed, and I did for a long time. I would take them for a month, get off of them, just like you're supposed to, go on about my business and didn't think twice about it. And then after we won the Olympics in 2008, it just became an everyday thing. It was actually into the Olympics, the same thing, take as prescribed. And which is interesting. It's a narcotic, but it's not banned, right, from the Olympics. As long as you're telling them that you're taking it, it's legal.
Avalide is. I mean, just
it's strange, but that was the rule. So taking as prescribed, no issues. My athletic trainer, always was on me. Hey, dude, be careful. My doctors would call me personally. Because I had great relationships with them. Hey, man, I noticed you've taken 2 months in a row. We need to cut this off, right? And I always did. And then for some reason in 2008, I think I'd crossed that invisible line of needing to take them instead of wanting to take them. And it started, I can't tell you how bad it got, but if you are an alcoholic or a drug addict and you're in recovery, you know how bad it got. But I literally couldn't go to sleep without drinking. Every day I was drinking over a fifth of vodka along with about 15 pain pills. And it was an absolute battle. My wife would watch and, I would hide a lot of it. She would know that some of it was on because obviously I wasn't talking correctly, slurring and doing a lot of things. And we ended up going, our athletic trainer got me into a treatment facility, after 2 years of really trying to stop, but I couldn't. I'd say I was stopping and I really meant it and I just couldn't do it. And so went into some treatment centers and learned a lot about that being a disease and a lot of 12-step stuff that I do and things of that nature. But, to the point of not being able to stop drinking, it was baffling to me because I literally have done everything in my mind athletically that I set my mind to. And when I said I'm going to stop or I'm going to push harder, I was always able to do that. It was the one thing I couldn't do on my own. I couldn't. And, it helped going and finding people that were just like me that struggled with this. And at first, obviously, I was a little bit nervous because I thought it was all about me and people were going to care what I was supposed to be this great volleyball player. And I thought that defined me. And the realization was, man, I'm a human being and I've struggled and I needed help. And I got it. And I got great people that helped me out. And, it's going on 3 years now that I've been clean and sober. And I thank God every morning, because I found God through this process. Not a Bible beater, but I definitely found a spiritual power out there. I mean, I overdosed twice, which a lot of people do not know. I was not resuscitated. I never lost consciousness. But I was losing consciousness in the ambulance and they, shot me full of some stuff that brought me right back. There was a time in my life where I didn't want to wake up, which is, again, if anybody out there knows how that feels, it's an extremely lonely place because you really don't want to wake up, and I get it. But, fortunately, I had some really close people to me. My family, my mom and even my ex-wife, because she had divorced me, still was checking on me and, kept me in their prayers. And, I know that that's what got me through the rough years. There's probably 4 to 5 years that were really bad after 2012. It got really bad around 2011. And then continued to about 2016. And then through 17, I started recovering. And then 18 really started putting all these principles in play in my life. But, it's a real deal. And what I've really learned is I see young people that might have some tendencies. And especially if I'm coaching them, I tell my story a lot. So I know if anybody ever has an issue, I talked to a couple guys at the beach today about some of their family members. So it was fantastic to at least give them some source of information, just kind of understand how the disease works. And, once it's in an addict or alcoholic's body, we really lose the power of choice, which that sounds so silly to say out loud, because, how can you not choose to drink? Well, because you're going to get violently ill if you're not drinking, or if your body's accustomed to that. And it's an illness that's way worse than any flu or anything I've ever encountered. Being dope sick was one of the worst things that had ever happened to me. And you would think after doing it one time, you would get sober, but it took several years.
Yeah. Look, how much does feeling like you're alone in this situation come into play as far as not wanting to seek help?
You think that you're the only one that has felt like this, and that people will not understand you, and that no one else could possibly feel this bad, because like when I was attempting to kill myself, I didn't think that anybody could feel like I felt. And it turns out there's a whole community out there that felt like I felt, every day. And, when I reached out and I started getting that support, like I would start a sentence and the guy would finish it across from me, and I was like, oh, okay. It's just like talking volleyball. You're really, if you're into the lingo and you understand out of system and whatever, talking alcoholic and drugs and like how you felt, it just starts to go really hand in hand with each other. So I found a guy who, actually California guy that just, he has now, I think 10 years, and kind of took me under his wing and just helped me out a lot, just, hey, did I get it? And really nursed me back to health, mentally and physically.
So I think the important thing to think here is that, like, once you know that there's somebody who's really, really successful, that's an alcoholic, it's inspirational, because some people consider alcoholism with just being a loser. This guy's down on his luck, he lost his job and drinking happened and this and that. And that's not always the case, right? It's like, look at you, you're an Olympic gold medalist, right? You have a pretty good contract, Boston in Italy, playing, you played in the Brazilian team for a little bit with, God, who the hell are those guys? I forget, Andre and Andre, right? I think you played with Andre and Andre, right?
Yeah.
So I like your story because it didn't come from a place, like the people who are afraid to come out, they feel like that people will think of them as a loser, right?
Yeah.
And they also think that this is not everybody's problem. It's a singular problem, which we just aforementioned. This is like a kind of like a one-off thing. And I think the reason why I asked this, and the reason why I'm glad you're telling your story, because there are so many people out there that they don't come forward because they do feel alone. They're embarrassed. They're ashamed by, I don't know. We can speak ad nauseum to the cause that leads to the shame and the embarrassment, but I think that for the individual people, they have their own story, but
yeah, absolutely. I was just strictly, I felt that I was bigger than I was, and what really got me was thinking how my old teammates were going to perceive this, and what came to be was, dude, when I would go and talk to them, they just would give me a big hug and say, hey man, I'm so glad that you're okay.
Yeah.
And that was it.
I bet you Ryan Millar was there. I bet, right? Yeah. I bet you Millar was there.
It. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was there was no like, oh man, I can't believe you did this. I can't believe you lost all your money. I can't believe you pawned your gold medal. I can't believe you did all, none of that. All of it was made up in my head. A lot of it was the realization is they just wanted me to be healthy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think that I learned so much from that. It's like, dude, just wake up and be a good human being and good things are going to happen. Yeah. Good things are going to happen to you. It's the way of life. The way it goes, it might not always be great, but it's going to be. I'll tell you what, I was homeless for 8 months, and that was hard. Yeah.
They're doing my life. Someone's doing my life story. It's going to come out in 2 weeks. 8 months, same thing. Not that this is a competition or anything.
No, sure.
8 months sleeping on trains.
Yeah, it's wild, dude. It was, I didn't know where I would sleep. I had a car, which was wild because I was always drunk, so I couldn't be driving it, but I would drive it just enough to get to somewhere to sleep, and then it was supposed to be repoed because I was so far behind on the payments. My mom wouldn't let me at her house. My dad said, no way. Yeah. My wife, of course, didn't want me around the kids. And so, I did that for 6 to 8 months and it was so brutal, and then just looking back that the real alcoholic and the real addict, the only thought is getting high or drunk. That's it. You're not thinking about anything else, which is it's so hard to explain to people because really that's all I would think about. And then when that was done, it would be like, okay, when am I doing it again? And that's what it's an obsession of your mind, right? That's what we call it. It's an obsession of your mind and it won't go away. And the way that it does go away is you pray, and it's weird, and you have to ask for someone else's help because you can't do it yourself. You can't remove it yourself. There's a lot of people that say, oh, I was strong enough and I just did it by myself. Well, you might not have been a real alcoholic, because every person that's really had it, you need help.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with, and it took me forever to ask. And I really wish I could go back and shake myself and be like, dude, it's a big deal. Yes, it is. But you need to get over yourself.
Yeah.
And do the right thing. You need to do the right thing for your family. Because I missed out on probably 4 or 5 years with my kids.
Right.
Just either not remembering or in and out of treatment centers, doing. I'm grateful I didn't die. I mean, really am, because the stuff that I was doing causes, when they picked me up off my floor and put me in the ambulance, the nurse, her sister was in recovery. She gave me the shot, and she said, and as I was coming to and obviously not going to go into cardiac arrest, we started talking. And, she said, look, I'm not trying to scare you here, but last night we picked up someone who died with half of what you have in your system right now. And I mean, and I just started crying, I didn't know what to do. And, fortunately, a lot of people putting me in the right direction. And I finally listened. It's like, dude, it's not about you, man. It's okay. Whatever it is you're going through, it's okay. Whatever it is, there's nothing that, I used to think that I would tell my mentors and sponsors that something that I did was going to make me look awful, right?
Yeah.
They're like, dude, we did that too. It's okay.
I've always noticed that the embarrassment and shame part is also, but you leapt into something more very significant too. There's also a tough enough factor. Like this is a type of person.
Yeah.
If they have a cold, no one's gonna know, right? If they dislocated their finger, and it went back and they were whatever, no, right? No harm, no foul. Like, you strike me as a type of person, and again, I'm not a competition or anything, but I grew up this type of person where my parents are like, you've had what for how many days? How come you didn't tell me? It's just like one of those things where I guess you feel like there's an embarrassment factor, but there's another category called the I'm tough enough thing, and
I'm macho,
and that could have led to your death. That could have led to your death, Riley.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, and let me tell you something. Someone doesn't have to be deeply religious to know that the power of prayer is a real fucking thing, my man.
Yeah,
the power. I grew up highly religious person. I'm not a highly religious person, but I still know who my God is, and we still talk all the time. So and there is nothing like the power of prayer, like this whole spiritual thing that just makes it okay to be yourself and this and that.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah. But I
started hanging out with these guys that were, they were older guys and successful, but they had been clean for some time and they looked happy. Right. Yeah. And they, we'd go to meetings and they would be joking, and it was surreal to me. I was like, oh my God, I've lost everything in life. How am I ever going to laugh again? Mm-hmm. Right. And they're like, dude, we did that 3 times. It's okay, man. Just get, it's going to be okay. As long as you don't drink or use a drug, you're going to be okay. And
you're also in a unique situation where I think that 2 things that help you over, one, and stop me at any time I'm wrong, just say wrong. One, you've already did something that no one can take away. All right, you can hawk your gold medal, but you're still a gold medalist. All right, you can melt it and make it into nice little fucking ribbons for your wife for Valentine's Day or whatever. Put dark chocolate in it. Right, have a good time.
Right.
But the second thing is, I don't know how long this happened post Olympics and post your pro career. When you realize that it doesn't define who you are, it's the most liberating. It's a backpack, a 90-pound rucksack.
Yeah.
I'll speak my language. That you don't
I
have
love
to
that
carry.
language.
Because boot camp you have to do a 15-mile road march with a 90-pound rucksack and then 25. But I was 200 pounds, and I'm from New York, so I'm used to walking. So for me, I'm like, let's go. It's the only thing I was good at. But it's the most liberating feeling in the world to say, hey, I did this, but at the same time, it doesn't define me as a collective whole. And I know how you feel, because look, I moved here from New York. I had to pay dues all over again. At some point, I want to do the AVP in Manhattan Beach. I want to commentate and this and that. And I think I'm building my brand towards that. And then I'm like, shit, what if they say no, and this and that. But and this happened like 2 years ago, before the pandemic, once I realized that me being on that center court doesn't define me as a collective whole, there are other things. It's so weird. Like if it comes to me, of course I'm going to be happy. I'm not going to run away
Right.
from. I'm not going to tell
Sure.
not going to tell the AVP Gold Series to fuck off. You
Yeah,
know.
sure. Right.
But it's liberating. And if you watch MMA like I do, Dominic Cruz said the same thing. Like he was injured, only had like one fight in like 3 years, and then when he decided, wait, getting the belt back, I'm good. If I don't get the belt back, I'm all right. I'm good.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah.
So how much am I is that wrong?
No,
or
you're right
or-
on. I mean, and it even leans into today. I go out to play with these guys, and I mean, I'm out there. You know, we do like a little huddle before because we got a guy organizing practice, and it's a practice session essentially. And you know, they announced that I'm there, and we got another gold medalist, Dave Lee's there, and then they announced me. And at that time, but I can't play beach right now. I mean, I'm out of shape. I'm slow. I'm not good. But you got to get out and you got to get your feet wet, right? You got to start somewhere. So I said, man, you just got to get out and be vulnerable again. It's okay to be vulnerable. Show yourself. Even if I don't side out, no one's going to think that I'm a shitty person. I'm just not good at volleyball right now. That's as simple as I can make it. But circling back, when I moved to Texas, when I was in the middle of my addiction, and I remember this conversation great with I was going into some business ventures with a partner, and she had two girls that played volleyball, but they were small liberos and they weren't getting looked at in college, and they were really getting their feelings hurt because all of their friends were going to college. They weren't getting letters. And she goes, Riley, hey, I need you to come over and talk to my girls. And I said, okay, well, let's do our meeting and then I'll talk to them after. And she goes, I want you to tell them how volleyball does not define them as a human being. And I couldn't talk. I couldn't say anything on the matter because I really felt, I was like, what is she talking about?
What do you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so, I mean, I can remember the conversation and I ended up saying something, but I remember getting in my car going, oh my God. And I mean, I was battling a lot of demons at that time, but it was really, that's what I really thought my life was defined as a great volleyball guy. But it's not. What it is helping people. That's what I'm really good at, and that's what I'll continue to do. And I know God has me on this journey to do that stuff. There's no accidents here. I'm really grateful for the chances I've had. I've taken the hard road, to get here. But like you said, I paid my dues, man. I mean, I paid my dues, and I'm always willing to help people. Like that want help, I really will help you. I really will. Volleyball, life, whatever it comes down to.
Paid in full, Riley. Paid
Absolutely.
in full. Me, I pissed off the volleyball gods. I think I still got some settling up to do with them, but I think I'm almost there. But I'm glad that you told the story about the little girls, because I think in order for us to remain a world power for volleyball, we have to start paying attention more to skill set than lining these kids up against the wall and looking for the bigger ones and telling them that forget about that. You're 5'9", outside hitter. Nope. Save yourself all the time. You just be a libero, whatever, and this and that. And something I, as a club coach, I was with Endless Summer for 5 years. Duran's coach for beach volleyball national events. I was her skill coach. I was an indoor, just on the juniors level, not on adults, but on juniors level, evolution, kids out of Redondo. Duncan Avery's the program director there. I never point at a kid and tell them that you can't do something. Like if there's a kid that wants to be an outside hitter and he's 5'9", I will tell him, look, that's, people that play that position at the highest level, they're bigger than you. But if you want to do this, if you're serious about this, do this, and do this. That's what I think, and I'm not trying to be arrogant or anything, but that's what I think every coach should do. Don't tell a kid that you can't do something. Just get a real talk them. Say, hey, look, this is a big man's game. It's a big man's position. But something I noticed is that when the best player in the world, the voting comes, it's always the 6'2" guy, right? It's not it's not the mythological creature, right? It's like Taylor Sanders, like 6'3", right? Karch Karai, graciously listed at 6'2". You, team captain, whatever. I think you're 6'1" when you're not hunching. Because I know that's me. I'm 6'1" when I'm not hunching. So if anyone can be a shining example, and I'm bringing it back full circle, Kanye West style, right? It doesn't make any sense, but it will. The reason why I brought this up is because you're 6'1", and because you should be a shining example to people who, not little people everywhere, but to people where a coach might have told them when they were 12 years old or whatever, no, you can't do that. No, you're not that. You're going to be this, you're that. It's like, how fucking dare these people? How fucking dare these coaches tell someone that's not even grown literally as well as psychologically to tell these kids that they can't do something. Don't you? No. Look, if I'm in theater school, and by the time my sophomore year is up and my professor says, look, you might want to change your major. All right, okay, I'll give that some consideration. Or if I'm truly driven, I'll ignore him and take my chances, right, as an adult. Right. So, man, Marymount Manhattan was, whew, but that's my story, not yours. But yeah, that was the time of my life and the most trying time of my life. I come back 33 years old as a returning adult student. I get into the second ranked program in the country. And second year, I'm struggling because they're trying to tear down and build up a 33-year-old. So, but the reason why I'm bringing this up is because you had a lot of obstacles to climb.
Well, and like you said, man, I'm the exact same way. A 14-year-old boy comes and says to me, "Hey, I want to play outside, but I'm 5'4" or 5'5", and I might not grow or whatever it is." Yeah. I had a lot of people tell me I wasn't going to succeed. Not maybe they didn't tell me, but nobody recruited me. Nobody came to my house and watched me play or to my gyms or whatever. But being undersized I knew that I had to do other things better. I had to be more competitive than anybody else. I had to be a great teammate. And I do the same thing when kids approach me, especially a lot of kids I recruited in the AI are a little bit undersized and, they want to go and play pro. That's what they come to me to say. That's a recruiting tool that I use. Hey, I'm the best AI coach in the nation, I feel. Come to our program. We have a fantastic arena. And then I can get you in touch with people to play professional volleyball. Well, I'm only 5'11", but I really want to do it. What does it take? And then that's when we start to talk about it. And a lot of times when I get through the conversation, some of them don't want to do it. There's been a couple of guys like, okay, well, we'll talk about that next year. Because when I talk real talk with guys about playing professionally, it is a real conversation. It's not, hey, let's train and do. Hey, here's what has to happen. You have to do A, B, C, D, E, F in a row, get noticed by the right guy, go over there, have a good tryout or whatever it is, then sign a contract, then perform for 8 months, and it's trying. And I really do. We have a couple of guys that play for me at Jamestown. They're a little bit older. There's some high flyers that are really good that want to go do that. And I think they'll have the opportunity for sure, because I think they're just talented enough and they're really driven to go live in Europe. Which is another thing, as people want to go do it and they get over there and they come back halfway through the first year and never go back. I saw that so many years. Yeah. But I think to any young coach, especially to coaches, I'm not going to say I can't stand, but I don't really understand where a coach could ever say, hey, you can't do that. Mm-hmm. I think why not just pull them aside and say, look, hey, I think, that's a great position. If you really, here's what you got to do, kid. Mm-hmm. Let them make their own decisions.
I'll say it for you. I can't stand it. I can't stand coaches like that. I'll carry the water on this one. I can't stand coaches like that. Well,
they shouldn't be allowed to coach.
No,
though. That's my point.
No,
that's what I say. It's like, dude, you can't, I did a camp I did a high performance camp. I was there. I hosted it in Chicago, mm-hmm. and we had a good group of coaches. And then I heard some of them started saying, hey, they were already judging these players before they took the floor. And I said, look, I don't care how many of these you've done. We're not going to do that today. Okay. We're going to walk around and we're going to evaluate. If you don't like them, then circle their one, give them a 1, but we're not just going to start because they want to start voting because they've seen these kids already, And I'm like, look, guys, these kids each deserve a look. Just go and watch them. And, some of them like the idea of being passionate about it. And then others are like, oh, who's this guy coming in and trying to change the way we do things, I'm like, man, there is a kid that you have missed, I promise, because I was that kid.
Yeah.
I know it, I get it. And I make sure when I'm in the gym, I'll spend a little more time even than I should sometimes. I should be moving on, but you're going to find somebody out there.
Sometimes you can't help it, right? You see someone and you're locked in as a coach, right? Your hooks are in and you're trying to work. Do you know Brian McDermott? Chicago Progression Beach Volleyball, because I feel like I'm having the exact same conversation. If you wind up in Chicago, he's basically the guy that showed the Department of Health in Illinois how safe, because the Department of Health thinks volleyball, they think indoor sixes, and he was in constant communication with them, so they finally authorized indoor beach, warehouse style, whatever.
Oh, great.
And
yeah,
it even made
right.
national
Fantastic.
news. He's the founder of Progression Beach Volleyball.
Okay.
And if you're ever in Chicago, you ever want to talk shop or actually just share ideas and maybe even do a camp together, he would. The two of you would hit it off. I swear to you. He's a repeat offender. He's been on the show 4 times. He's this guy. He was this guy that was like 5'6" with like size 12, 13 shoes that played D3 at Newbury College in Massachusetts, made the neck of a finals, as like a low seed. They just came out of nowhere. So, but he lives.
Well, I'll tell you this kid that plays for me. Okay. His name is Kaylor Cox.
Okay.
You got to YouTube him. I'll send it afterwards. I'll send you his name. He's 5'9", and he jumps 44 inches, and he is one of the best volleyball players I've ever coached. And I've coached a lot of young players, but he is incredible. He texts me, recruiting. A lot of schools wouldn't let him play for.
How do you spell his name?
He's Kaylor, Caylor Cox, Cox.
Cay.
And he does some really cool stuff on YouTube too.
I'm at Cay. Sorry, Cay. Say it again.
Lor.
Okay.
Kaylor Cox, Cox.
Got you.
Out of Montana.
I'm
somewhere in
actually
Montana.
YouTubing right now.
And he, when I was recruiting, he sent me he knows Barker really well. So this is where I'm going with the story. His dad, you might know his dad. His dad is Trevor's Cox.
Okay.
He played with James a lot on one of their, I can't remember the nemesis, I want to say, maybe out of San Antonio. Anyhow, they know each other. So James sent me the video of this kid, and I said, dude, he's playing on a woman's net. Because that's what it looked like, And he's like, no, he's not, man. He's the real, So anyhow, he sends me the tape. We give him an offer him a scholarship. He accepts it immediately. Like within literally, I send it, and within 10 minutes, I've got the signature and everything. So he goes, I'll be in Dallas. Come watch me. Yeah, he goes, I'll be in Dallas at Nationals. Come watch me play. And this is right before COVID hit. I said, okay, I'll be there. So I go, and I'm like, because he says he's 6. I think he listed himself at 5'11". And I said, okay. And I go in there, and he comes up, he's right next to me, and he's no shit, 5'7", 5'8", maybe, but just balling, dude. I mean, literally 44 inches, but more than anything, he has the IQ of a professional volleyball player. He can think of things that are going to happen before they happen, reacts well, very little coaching on his end, that I have to do with him. Great leader on the floor, hits the bic really fast. Cool. That's one of the things that I'm really trying to, when his dad came and coached for me this year because we didn't have an assistant due to COVID. So if anything happened to me, we were screwed. So they said, hey, can you get someone on short notice? And I got him. And so he comes up, and we're running basically the USA offensive system, which is gap, go, fast, big, grind, and a red ball. And we're running it fast, and he comes in and he says he hasn't slept all night, first of all. Like, he's super nervous, he's a great volleyball mind. And he goes, I don't know if I can have this conversation with you. I go, man, come on, what's up? I go, is your family okay? I go, your family okay? We don't know each other, by the way. We've only met each other twice, and he's been on the job 1 week. So, he doesn't know me very well. He thinks I might take offense to what he's going to say. And he goes, I just don't think we have the personnel to run that offense. It's not going to work. And I said, okay, I appreciate that. Let's see. Let's give it another 2 weeks and see what happens. And sure enough, man, these kids just buy into it, and they're hitting quicks from the back row. I mean, we're running 31s faster than anyone in the league, and our go is a good tempo. And anyway, he comes back, and he was just like, wow, that was so cool to watch as the season progressed, and just knowing, because what I did, I've done that with the girls team that I coached, Adam Johnson Volleyball Club. I coached one of his top teams 1 year, and we were running like they were men. And they didn't like it at first, but then at the end of the season, they loved it.
No, it must have been a trip for them.
Oh, yeah, because they'd never, so it was right when Hugh took the job at Minnesota. So I reached out to him, and I said, hey, man, I haven't really coached a good girls team. Give me some advice. What do you think I should do? And he goes, nothing. You train them just like you would do the boys. And I said, really? I go, everything? He goes, 3-step blocking moves, jump serving.
It's Texas.
You might not have girls that can jump serve, but they'll love trying.
It's Texas. That's a bunch of dudes with long hair, man. I mean,
it was
the
the first 3 weeks, they were really uncomfortable. And then it was like, okay, we can do this. So we were like running 31s, back row bigs. It was really fun. That was one of the funner seasons I had coaching because those girls bought in, and we did really well. I don't know what we finished in the gold at Nationals. We did okay, but they got a lot better.
Actually, let's take a look at Kaylor for a sec.
Yeah.
Let's skip this. Jesus. Man, you're right. He does get up. Nice. Look at the footwork too. The pivot foot that allows that.
I mean, he
that
has
crossbody.
He has great. So he's setting here for his club team. He's set and ran a 6'2". I wonder if there's any from him this year. I don't have anything on me. I wonder if he's got anything uploaded from this year on UJ. But he's a great player, and he's even jumping 4 or 5 inches higher now. He goes home, and they have literally a mini camp at their house. It's a volleyball family that you would love. It's just like they got a serve. They got 100 volleyballs in their house in Montana. They've got grass courts set up in the back. They've got weights. We're visiting,
cool. Dude. Field trip. Yeah. Hey, dude, listen.
They welcome people. They're like, come over.
But we got to settle up on that 5'11" thing that he gave you. You know what I learned? There was a dating site called OkCupid, right? And they got rid of the forums. The forums are like dating advice, sexuality, talking about sex. This is politics. This is general. So a bunch of women had someone started a thread. What's your most unfavorite lie about a men's profile, right? And there was an overwhelming response of lying about their height. And one woman said, look, anyone that says they're 5'11", they're 5'9". She says, because if they were really 5'11", they would just say 6 feet.
6 feet.
And I was like, holy shit, that was okay. And they were like, Jay, come on, you're awfully quiet over there. What's one thing you hate about like a woman's profile? I'm like, the MySpace angle. The camera pointed all up there, making you look as skinny as you are. And then when I see you in real life, you fat. You know what I mean? Look, if you got some meat on your bones, I'm okay with that too. But I think there has to be, just like the height thing, there has to be this level.
You got to be upfront with it.
Yeah.
You got to be upfront.
You get some more activity if I mean, man, it makes you want to like report someone for lying about their height too. I mean, I sided with the women on that. But look.
It's interesting. My third year of my first good contract, when I go to Greece, I'm supposed to go back to Italy. The contract has fallen through, so I'm about a month out with not really a job, but I know something's going to come up because I'm playing pretty well. And this Greek agent calls me and he says, hey, we have a great contract at PAOK, but you need to be 2 meters tall. And I said, okay, yeah, I'm 6'6". That's almost 2 meters. He goes, 6'6", you're 6'6"? I said, yeah, I'm 6'6". And so we signed the contract. I don't see them. They don't see me play all summer because I don't think we traveled that year with the national team. We didn't have a World League or something funky. I get there. The first thing he says to me is this is back when you could walk up to the gate and greet your passengers. He comes up and he's looking at my wife comes off first, then I come off. He doesn't say welcome. He doesn't say, hey, good to see you. He goes, you're not 6'6". That's the first thing he said to me. And I really am with shoes 6'3", 6'3" and a quarter, And I said, man, I'll play like I'm 6'6". Yeah. And we ended up finishing second in that league, and it was all okay. But literally, he was pissed for about the first hour of our drive to the house, and he was like, "You lied to me." Like, it wasn't a lie. I said, it'll be okay. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I said, you already gave me my signing bonus.
Yeah, no, you said I'm almost 3 meters. Right? I mean, come on, that's cool. Oh man. So, listen, let's before we wrap up here, you have to be starved. Because you did practice and you did this. Your body's probably like, hey, is there a particular site or like someone wants to know more about you, what you've been up to and this and that? Do you have or an Instagram handle and this and that?
I have Instagram at Riley.Salmon. That's it. I don't even know if that's my Instagram handle, but I don't do Facebook. I do a Twitter for Elite. It's Elite Volleyball Services. That's what it is. Elite Volleyball Services on both Twitter and Instagram. But I need to be better at updating it. But I don't do Facebook. It's one of the amends that I had to make to the wife is not do that.
But they can also reach out to you, Jamestown, right? Like you have an email, you have a business email for that too.
All of that is on Twitter, and we have a guy that handles that as well. So if someone reaches out to me and they see that it needs to be directed to me, they get in touch with me immediately.
Yeah. Riley, so congratulations on your season with Jamestown. I know you had a pretty good, you were like 21-3 or something like that. And I know losing the park, some of them guys kind of got like a little too, and that wasn't, I mean, it's not the best feeling in the world for someone in which winning is not enough. They have to be idiots about it too. So, I mean, I don't fully blame you for being upset. I just don't.
I want to clarify that a little bit. So
please.
So what was happening frustrating is these guys were speaking Portuguese and talking trash in Portuguese to our guys, which they don't understand, but I do.
Right.
So then they're beating us down, and hey, they talk all you want. That's fine. But when it starts to get a little bit personal and they start saying some things that are, it went too far.
No,
I just
there's
simply
rules to the bro
addressed it.
code. There's rules to bro code.
Yeah, and I went up, and the officials have no idea what's being said. They have none, so they're not going to say anything. And I actually thought the match was over. I was 1 point too early, so when I charged and started telling them to F off, I looked and I was like, oh wow, we're not done yet. So then red card, and boom, you're done. And I'll always defend my team, always, no matter what, no matter the cost. It was definitely inappropriate, and what I told my president, it would never happen again. Obviously doing that to young men is unacceptable. I saw the player that I was specifically talking to in the hotel afterwards, and we made it right. He came up and apologized to me first, and I said, hey man, I apologize. I'm way too old to be doing that stuff.
Of course.
But
for the kids, they got to stop acting like they about that life too, right? I mean, someday they'll go to nationals. Like I set for a team called Balmesa, right? I didn't go to nationals with them because they wanted me to pay my own way. But those kind of guys, like just a stare down. If you stare at them, where they're from, that means you're fighting. That means we throwing hands. So and I warn these kids at the club level. They shake my hand, the coach's hand, and they're staring down a coach. And I'm like, the first thing I do is I look to see where their parents are. Then I look to see what the coach says. And then if no one says anything, then after everybody settles down and thinks it's okay, that's when I come. I'm like, bring it in, guys. The other team. Be careful. I know because South Bay. I call it the South Bay stare. Where you kind of block someone and you're looking at, they're looking at you like they're gonna do shit, but but where I'm from, look, I'm not saying I'm about that life. But where I grew up, I know
there are people
right? No, but you know who is and who isn't. Like I kept my behind on the block, but Flatbush Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, you know who is and who isn't. And where I'm from, forget about the Dominican guys. If someone stares at you like that, it means we're fighting. So it's okay for these Brazilian guys to do that, but it's okay for these South Bay guys to do that. But I'm like, dude, just careful when you go to nationals and you play a team. You play a team from the Bronx.
Every action we do, every action we do, there's the reaction or a consequence, right? And that, when I sat down with my athletic director afterwards, he's like, hey, what happened? And I said, hey, this is exactly what happened. They were saying some things that were absolutely unacceptable. I shouldn't have handled it that way. However, I did. And again, I'll defend my guys all the time.
Good.
But like you said, I have no problem doing things like that. When I was a player, I was always a little bit, I'm not going to fight you, but if you want to, I'm sure I could get myself up for it.
Yeah, I mean, me neither. I'm not into that. Look, I have a Brooklyn virtue. Like if someone steps up to me, in my mind, I think that if I let him get away with that, he thinks he can do it anytime he wants. So that's my fucked up mentality, right? So, but that's why I'm like, okay, congratulations, boom. Let's move on with life. But I'm glad you stuck up for your guys. I mean, look, I'm not gonna say anything on camera that your president might regret. All right, so I'm gonna leave a lot of this alone. But I do think there's a part of me that believes that if you brought it to the referees first, they probably wouldn't have done shit. So I mean, so there was a super necessary route that came from emotion, but for me, because my degrees in theater performance, I probably would have performed it.
It was really interesting because, like I said, I thought the match was over. That's where I was like, you know what I mean? That was the bigger mistake because it probably wouldn't even the tyrant would have went unnoticed if there wouldn't have been a red card. It'd been like, okay, we got a little heated and then walk off. And what I told my guys afterwards in the locker room, I said, guys, you can't let people treat you like that. And the way you do that is you shove the ball down their throat. You stop them. You have to stop them. You guys were going back and forth. We were saying things, it wasn't just one way. You know what I mean? They didn't just all of a sudden
But to do it when you think the match is already over I mean, if there's anything you probably feel embarrassed about, it's like
absolutely. Absolutely. I'm like, what a rookie,
I played
my guys know that. They know that I am for them. At the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Before we go, I played a New York Urban match. It's like this league in New York, they have different competitive divisions. And in my mind, we always think the deciding game is 15, right? But because it's 2 out of 3, all 3 sets are 25. So
Okay.
I took a ball on first as a setter, and these dudes were trying to haze me all night because they thought that if they got me to talk back, and my team wouldn't have my back. So it's not about what I talk back. It's about were you outside here to get aced after that altercation and embarrassment.
Yeah, right, sure.
But so I kept quiet the whole match because I didn't have a team that I think that would do that. But game point, I take a ball, I peel on a cross court, and I take it with my hands, and my middle sets me, nectar hands, because I said set me, and they go set him. So I went cross, boom, off his elbow, and I said, out, go home. And I went under the net, to like shake hands or just walk. And when I went under the net, everybody looked at me, and I said, oh shit, I went back to my side. And then the middle got so mad at me, he came under the net, I turned around, and I was like this. And I had to get my nerve together. I said, I will drop your, because that's how you point at middles. I will drop your, and then I put it on YouTube, but I cut the part off, like the altercation. I just did the out go home thing, and then someone posted, Jay, why don't you post what happened after? I said, I can't.
That's awesome.
I can't. Yeah. Everyone thinks the game's a 15. That part of the YouTube video, I hid, but that was a cool story about that.
No, that's great. We learn though. We learn.
It was so embarrassing because I thought it was over. So I know how you feel. Cool. All right, guys. Riley Salmon might love you guys, but I had enough of you. Okay. In fact, we're out of here. So for all of you at home, we're going to hit my music in a minute. For all of you at home, for all of you on your iPads, for all of you on your iPhones, for all of you on your Droid, for all of you on your desktop, who rules the world? Old school. For Riley Salmon, this is episode 93. I'm Jason DeBias. This is the Option Podcast. We're out. Come check out the Option Podcast on optionvb.com. It's also available on iTunes and Spotify and on YouTube under the NY Varsity Sports handle. You're going to love what you hear.